lawn tool hobbyists, circus clown cosplayers, Christmas sweater enthusiasts. Today we're ranking slasher and horror movie villains from evil to most evil.
It's time to start our game.
And we're starting out with Jack Torrance. Jack Torrance from The Shining isn't a full-blown villain from the start. He's more of a tragic case of severe cabin fever being hijacked by evil spirits.
I'm dizzy. I need a doctor.
Initially, he's just a guy trying to write a novel while taking care of an isolated hotel. But the fine print of the Overlook Hotel involves it being built on an Indian burial ground, which has a really sinister influence that turns Jack into a raging, axe-wielding nightmare.
Here's Johnny.
He may have brought along his own personal demons into the hotel, but it's really the supernatural forces preying on his mental instability and alcoholism, which is why we have to rank him so low. And although our next killer, Jigsaw, is actually a lot more evil than Jack, he does at the very least have a moral code. John Kramer, aka Jigsaw, isn't your run-of-the-mill slasher. This guy's kinda like a serial killer mixed with a life coach. Diagnosed with terminal cancer and feeling pretty salty about it, Jigsaw decides it's time to teach people how to appreciate life, giving them, self-improvement training like sawing one's own leg off with a hacksaw, or team-building exercises like searching for poison antidotes in pits full of needles. Jigsaw definitely takes the Pride Center medal for his intricate, morally driven traps designed to not only punish his victims, but also teach them a lesson about his own philosophy. His traps are like the world's worst escape rooms, except instead of walking out with a free t-shirt, you walk out with missing limbs. Sure, he says he never directly kills anyone, but when your idea of therapy involves bear traps and syringes, we're gonna go ahead and call BS, John. I mean, if you chain someone to a radiator and leave them in a basement to die, yeah, you killed them. The "I didn't technically kill them" defense isn't gonna hold up in court. Granted, you could argue he at least targets people usually guilty of some sort of crime or sin.
I want to play a game. Your life is a lie.
Jigsaw's weirdly twisted sense of justice isn't entirely void of logic. Some of his victims do come out of the ordeal with a shiny new outlook on life, assuming they survive. Creeping into our next spot with major mommy issues is Norman Bates. Norman Bates from Psycho isn't just your average motel manager, he's the poster child for mama's boy gone wrong. This guy has enough mommy issues to keep Freud busy for a decade. After all, it's not every day you meet a guy who takes keeping mom close so literally that he dresses up in her clothes and lets her personality take the wheel. Oh, and did I mention he also killed his real mom? A very awkward family dynamic, to say the least. We're gonna go ahead and give Norman the Lust Center medal for his weirdly repressed desires that clearly manifest in his killings. Norman's kill count is low, but when Mother shows up, things get messy. Take the infamous shower scene. Norman's just trying to mind his own business, but Mother has other plans. While Norman himself isn't inherently sadistic, his split personality makes him psychotic. Crawling her creepy ass out of that well is Samara. And man, this movie messed me up as a kid. I think I legitimately needed therapy after that damn closet scene. Samara from The Ring might have started as a tragic figure, but her thirst for vengeance is anything but sympathetic. After being thrown into a well and left to die, she uses her psychic powers to curse a videotape, killing anyone who watches it within 7 days.
Don't you understand, Rachel? She never sleeps.
And her method, psychological torment before delivering a horrifying death, which is so unimaginable that the victim's face is twisted in pure terror. While her backstory earns her some sympathy, Samara's sadistic enjoyment of fear cancels out any hope for redemption. But let's talk about the cult classic Candyman. Candyman isn't your typical slasher villain, he's more of a tragic urban legend with a vendetta and a hook for a hand. Originally, he was a talented artist and was murdered in a horrific act of racial violence after falling in love in the 1800s. They cut off his hand, smeared him with honey, and left him to die from bee stings. So definitely not an evil guy from the get-go. Candyman's motivation is revenge, and his kills are anything but random. But he targets people who summon him by saying his name 5 times in a mirror.
Candyman, 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 Candyman. Candyman.
And he is very sadistic, but his cruelty does come from centuries of pain and injustice. He's more ghost than man, fueled by rage and the need to keep his legend alive. But let's talk about Leatherface. Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre may look like a hulking brute with a penchant for chainsaws, but he's more than just your typical sadistic villain. He's more of a tragic figure trapped by his circumstances. Simply put, Leatherface would not score too high in the IQ department.
Slap me fire.
He's kind of like the Forrest Gump of slasher killers, just a big idiot running along making his mark on America. So we have to give Leatherface the Darwin Center Medal for this reason. And he is heavily influenced, if not outright controlled, by his abusive family, who have turned murder into a family tradition. His killings are less about personal motivation and more about fear and obedience. He's following orders, not gleefully embracing violence as much as other killers on this list. Unlike other horror villains who kill for the thrill, Leatherface does show confusion and panic during his attacks, making it clear that he doesn't fully grasp his actions. But let's talk about the woman who gave us Jason, Pamela Voorhees. She was the original slasher mom. She's not in it for the thrill, she's out for revenge after the camp counselors let her son Jason drown. And when Mama Voorhees is mad, she's not baking cookies, she's baking up a body count. And we are sympathetic because she is a grieving mother, but instead of therapy, she chose murder for her coping mechanism, which, let's be real, not the healthiest choice. Moving on to the original Ghostface killers, we have Billy Loomis and Stu Macher. Billy and Stu from Scream are definitely iconic. Billy's motivation is a textbook case of mommy issues, which I guess is a recurring theme here, huh? And then there's Stu, who's just kinda there for the fun times. After all, it's the millennium, and motivations are incidental. These two masterminds use horror movie tropes as their personal playbook, throwing a few red herrings and fake scares in just for fun.
Corn syrup. Same stuff they use for pig's blood in Carrie.
Billy is actually more of the mastermind, and Stu is the class clown of murder, famously blaming peer pressure for his psychotic behavior. And honestly, if he weren't stabbing people, you'd find him hilarious thanks to Matthew Lillard's performance. But now we get to one of the big boys, Jason Voorhees. Jason is the strong, silent type who's a little too attached to his machete and a whole lot attached to his mother. Man, again with the mommy issues. Born out of a tragedy, Jason's motivation seems understandable at first. He's avenging his own death and his mother's. Drowned as a child because of careless camp counselors, Jason rises from the grave to make sure no one at Camp Crystal Lake gets a second chance to screw up. But somewhere along the way, his thirst for revenge turns into an all-out massacre. With over 150 kills to his name, Jason's kill count is nothing short of legendary. And although this medal could probably go to most on this list, we're giving him the Wrath Sinner medal for the simple fact that this guy is probably committed to his art of murdering for longer than anyone else on this list. His victims are usually partying teens, the kind who just can't seem to keep their heads, literally. While his earlier motivations are rooted in pain, Jason's creative and gruesome methods of dispatching people show that he's not just settling scores, he's having a little too much fun. This guy treats human lives like weeds in a garden, mowing through them with lawn care tools with zero remorse. And yet there's a part of us that might almost sympathize with him. Almost. He doesn't harm children and only targets people who seem to embody the neglectful behavior that doomed him as a boy. But any ounce of redemption is drowned out by his pure bloodlust. Flying in next, we have the Creeper. The Creeper from Jeepers Creepers is as terrifying as they come. An ancient winged entity that emerges every 23 years to feast on human body parts, which it uses to regenerate itself.
Whatever it eats becomes a part of it.
This guy isn't just evil, he's a walking, well, flying, embodiment of terror with a vicarious appetite for flesh. His motivation is purely survival, but in the most horrifying way possible. This dude has a serious appetite that easily earns him the Gluttony Sinner medal. He hunts down his victims based on fear, literally sniffing them out, and the more terrified you are, the more likely he is to target you. So not only is he killing for body parts, but he's also clearly having the best day ever hunting down his prey. And you know, in his defense, it's important to love what you do. Okay, let's talk about Chucky. Chucky is the fun-sized terror from Child's Play, and is what happens when you combine a serial killer with a children's toy. And somehow, it's both terrifying and hilarious.
Long time no see, pal.
Charles Lee Ray, a low-rent criminal with a flair for voodoo, cheats death by transferring a soul into a good guy doll, turning what should be a lovable toy into a pint-sized maniac with a potty mouth. Imagine your kid's Tickle Me Elmo suddenly asking for a knife, and it's not cute anymore. Chucky's motivation? Well, sure, he wants to transfer his soul into a human body, but in the meantime, he's more than happy to slash, stab, and curse his way through anyone who crosses him. And he is genuinely sadistic. Do we have any sympathy? No. Chucky was a sociopath even before he went all Toy Story from hell. He's not trapped in a doll's body, he's thriving in it. And every murder comes with a side of snark. But stalking his way into our next spot, we have the OG slasher, Michael Myers. From the moment he stabbed his sister to death at the age of 6, Michael became the embodiment of pure evil. Unlike many horror villains, Michael doesn't have the tragic backstory of abuse or trauma that motivates his killing sprees. No, he's just evil for evil's sake, and that's what makes him so terrifying. And his motivation? Well, that's the kicker. There doesn't seem to be one.
All right. I'm on the telephone to the police right now. Don't you even think about leaving.
He kills because it's in his nature, driven by some dark force that even Dr. Loomis, the psychiatrist who knows him best, cannot explain. Michael is the ultimate blank slate of terror with no need for revenge or justification. We will, however, give him the sloth center medal because the guy is just slow. But as for his kill count, it's nothing to sneeze at, spanning over 150 across the franchise. But it's not just the number of bodies he stacks up, it's how coldly and methodically he does it. Michael doesn't just kill, he stalks his victims like a cat toying with a mouse, creating an atmosphere of dread long before the first strike. Sadistic? Absolutely. Michael's emotionless mask hides any trace of humanity, and his kills are often slow, deliberate, and terrifyingly creative. He also lacks any redeemable qualities. If evil had a face, it would be a blank, pale Captain Kirk mask. Moving on to Pinhead. Pinhead is the chain-wielding head honcho from Hellraiser. He's less about mindless killing and more about offering an education in pain, whether you ask for it or not. Summon him by messing with the Lament configuration and congrats, you've just enrolled in his torture school, and your final project is surviving an eternity of agony. Unlike other horror villains, Pinhead doesn't chase people down. He's more of a you called, I answered type of guy. Once you've opened the box though, you're at his mercy, and mercy isn't exactly in his vocabulary.
Oh, no tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering.
Though I will say Pinhead is a weird one because he doesn't kill for fun or for food. He's a weird cosmic being who believes in expanding human experience through pain. If you summon him by opening the puzzle box, he sees it as his duty to enlighten you by subjecting you to unimaginable suffering. While this may be twisted, he operates by a certain set of rules and is almost philosophical about his brand of evil. His sadism is systemic, not chaotic. Floating in next is Pennywise. Pennywise from It isn't just your typical killer clown. He's an ancient cosmic horror disguised as a birthday party gone very, very wrong. Every 27 years, he wakes up, lures kids with balloons, and turns their deepest fears into a buffet of terror. If you think your childhood fears were bad, imagine those fears chasing you down in the form of a dancing clown with a thirst for flesh. Pennywise's motivation is pure hunger. He feeds off fear like it's a gourmet meal, with a side of children.
One poof and it'll be gone.
But it's not enough for him to just eat his victims. He needs to marinate them in fear first, making his sadism really off the charts. This guy's practically a food critic for trauma, savoring every scream. And the way he twists reality to torment his prey, call it psychological warfare in a clown suit. As for Pennywise's redeeming qualities, there are none. There's no tragic backstory here, just a monstrous entity that sees human suffering as a delicacy. And let's not forget that Pennywise isn't bound by the laws of the human world. He's a supernatural predator who takes pleasure in watching kids float, in the worst way possible. Honestly, it makes me happy to know that this thing was literally bullied to death. The bronze medal of evil has to go to Arts the Clown. Art the Clown from Terrifier takes the evil clown trope and cranks it up to 11, and then adds a whole new level of silent, sadistic glee. Unlike Pennywise, Art doesn't need to talk. He doesn't need to explain himself and doesn't have some deep motivation. He just really enjoys dismembering people. And that's all the backstory you're gonna get. His motivation? Who knows? He's like a kid in a candy store, except the candy is pure unfiltered violence. He's here to have fun, and his idea of fun involves a hacksaw and some poor, unfortunate victims. What makes Art particularly terrifying is his sheer unpredictability. He's not just out to kill, he's out to torture, mutilate, and traumatize his victims in the most creative ways possible, all while pulling goofy faces like he's in a silent film. He treats murder like a performance art, and there's really absolutely no sympathy for him. No tragic backstory, no redemption arc, just pure sadistic evil wrapped in a clown costume. Next up, the silver medal of evil is going to William Afton. William Afton from the Five Nights at Freddy's movie might look like an average guy with a suspicious day job, but underneath that unassuming exterior lies a truly sinister figure.
Just keep your eyes on the monitors and keep people out.
As the twisted mastermind behind the horrors at Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, Afton's motivation seems rooted in control and manipulation, targeting the most vulnerable children. And that's where he gets extra evil points. Any villain who preys specifically on kids automatically sinks lower on our morality scale. And Afton doesn't just kill, he turns these innocent children into haunted animatronics, trapping their souls into a never-ending nightmare. And honestly, that's a whole new level of evil. Now, why is Afton more evil than heavy hitters like Art the Clown or Pennywise? Well, it's simple. While Art is a sadistic maniac and Pennywise is a cosmic predator feeding on fear, Afton's evil is far more deliberate. Pennywise kills because he's hungry, and his sadism, while terrifying, is more primal and is kinda linked to his need to eat. And as psychotic as Art the Clown is, he's just not as methodical as Afton.
You, however, are finished.
Afton chooses children as his victims, coldly calculating their fates for personal gain. His cruelty is targeted, planned, and indefinitely more twisted. William Afton is a bone-chillingly sick individual, proving that there is nothing scarier than a man who chooses to make monsters out of innocence. Except for maybe our gold medal of evil winner. But first, this video is brought to you by Wicked Binge channel memberships. You can gain access to our videos early before anyone else, plus get members-only emojis and loyalty badges by supporting the channel through a membership. But finally, since we haven't talked about him yet, I'm sure you already guessed that the gold medal of evil has to go to the nightmarish Freddy Krueger. If nightmares had a face and a terrible sweater, they would be this guy. Freddy doesn't just kill his victims, he toys with them in their most vulnerable state, while they're asleep. Unlike Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees, Freddy's evil has a very human origin. He was a child killer in life, and after the parents of Springwood took vigilante justice into their own hands and burned him alive. Well deserved, by the way. He became something even worse. In death, Freddy gained the ability to kill teens in their dreams, where he's practically omnipotent. And his motivation? It's simple. He just loves it. His kill count is high, but what makes Freddy truly terrifying is just how much he enjoys the terror.
We got special work to do here, you and me.
He isn't just a mindless killer, he's an absolute sadist. He doesn't just take lives, he takes pleasure in manipulating his victims' worst fears before making the final cut. His creativity knows no bounds. He kills with flair, turning his victims' dreams into elaborate death traps that make the Saw franchise look like child's play. And it's not just about the killing, it's about making them suffer. As far as redeemable qualities, none. Freddy is the definition of irredeemable. There's no sympathy to be found here. He was evil in life and in death. But it gets worse. In Wes Craven's original conception of Freddy Krueger for A Nightmare on Elm Street, there were indeed implications that Freddy was, I'm not sure how to say this without getting demonetized. He was a PDF file. However, this aspect was toned down in the first film, and Freddy is referred to as merely a killer in the official storyline. Though in the 2010 remake, this aspect of his character is explicitly stated. And let's not forget the connections to darker forces. Freddy is fueled by supernatural powers, drawing his strength from the fear of his victims. So in a way, Freddy is a demonic force. One of the closest ties to pure evil you can find in the slasher genre. Get ready for a fun and spooky dive into your favorite monster's morality.
Welcome to Hotel Transylvania.
We're ranking all the characters from the entire Hotel Transylvania series from good to evil. And as usual, we'll be starting with the most pleasant guests and working our way down to the most evil. These characters are the good. And the gold medal of good was no easy choice, but we decided to give it to the legend himself, Blobby. In a world where the majority of monsters are surprisingly friendly, there were a lot of contenders for our top spot. But Blobby takes the cake / gelatin. He's always there to help out, even when he's not properly appreciated. In the second movie, the guys literally leave him stranded in a lake for hours, only calling when they need some transportation. And he still shows up in mere moments without hesitation in their time of need.
You have to go now?
If his friendliness wasn't enough, Blobby is also a great father. When he somehow has a son in the third movie, he takes good care of him. When his balloon animal pops, he replaces it with a blobby little puppy, which is as adorable as it is sweet. On top of fathering a child, he's also able to father a church, since he officiated a wedding at the start of the movie, implying that he is an ordained minister. So Blobby is the manifestation of all that is good and blobby in the world. And I'm 100% down to have him officiate my wedding someday. In a close runner-up position, we have Winnie Werewolf, Dennis's best friend and potential zing. Winnie has been one of the MVPs since the first movie. Her only appearance there was as the literal one of the werewolf children who still retained some level of respect for her parents, at which point she used her sense of smell to track down Johnny.
I drove through town to the airport.
From then on out, she remained a loyal companion to Dennis, always playing with him, staying beside him when he's upset, and protecting him from anyone who would dare approach him with anything but the utmost kindness. And on that note, let's talk about Dennis. As the son of Mavis and Johnny, this little guy plays the biggest role in his debut appearance, in which Dracula repeatedly places him in terrifying, dangerous situations to see if he's a vampire or a human. We'll get to his morally questionable traits later, of course, but Dennis is pretty innocent. He's a sweet kid who just wants to spend time with his family, be them human or monster. It's also worth noting that he'll go to some pretty intense lengths to protect his loved ones, shown by how his vampire / bat powers are awakened when Winnie is in danger. The worst you could say about Dennis is just the most absolutely tame misbehavior you could expect from a kid, like trying to sneak his puppy on board a cruise. If that's the worst thing you've done in your life, you're doing pretty great. Landing just outside of our top 3 is one of the series' main heroes, Mavis Dracula. She's a college-aged plus 100-aged vampire who wants to explore the world outside of her dad's giant hotel. Mavis is proof that in this universe, monsters are generally nothing to be afraid of. When she visits a human village on her 118th birthday, she greets every person she sees with a friendly face. And this sense of compassion and acceptance is pretty much the core of her whole character.
You're my age?
Sure. Oh, well, how old are you?
Whether it's for her family or some random gas station worker. I mean, really, when you think about it, her love for Johnny got the ball rolling for Dracula to slowly but surely learn to accept humans, and furthermore, for monsters and humans to live in harmony once again. All of that doesn't even scratch the surface of how supportive she is of her husband and son, both of whom she cherishes with all her heart, and despite how many ludicrous mistakes Drac has made, she's always looking out for him too. The guy messes a lot of stuff up, but his daughter was not one of them, as Mavis is a gem. And the apple didn't fall too far from the tree either. Up next is Martha, Drac's deceased wife. While Dracula's human hatred can be pretty severe, you can't forget that it is rather justified. When some humans discovered a couple of vampires living in their neighborhood, they decided the only logical course of action was to murder them. Martha not only was willing to lay down her life to allow Drac and Mavis to live a full one, but she thought even further ahead too, creating a beautifully illustrated storybook about her and Dracula's zing for Mavis's 118th year birthday, teaching her and reminding Drac of the importance of cherishing the love you're lucky enough to find. With that, let's move on to one of the humans who helped stop interspecies racism, Johnny. Johnny is one of those season 1 Patrick Star types of characters. He's pretty dense, sure, but he occasionally has some surprising moments of emotional wisdom that come out of absolutely nowhere. In the first movie, we see him at his best when he's willing to sacrifice his feelings for Mavis so she won't be hurt by him leaving after her birthday party.
You're a monster, and I hate monsters.
While Mavis immediately and correctly recognizes this is Drac's doing, it still shows that Johnny's able to place others' feelings above his own. And that facet of his character is consistent throughout the movies, shown by how he always helps the people around him become more kind and marshmallow-like. But while Johnny is, in fact, the marshmallow, he's not without his faults. Most notably in the final movie, Transformania. Van Helsing's machine goes haywire and turns Johnny into a continually mutating dragon who begins to lose sight of himself. thrown into sheer rage when he discovers that Dracula lied to him about why he wouldn't give him and Mavis the hotel. This was a low point for Johnny, but his anger was understandable, and at a certain point, he couldn't really control himself anymore. He could, however, control himself when he decided to help Dracula endanger Dennis behind Mavis's back so he could grow his fangs. Luckily, his possession of the Darwin Cinder Medal led to him revealing the secret anyway. While he's definitely a good guy, he is the first character we can really say anything bad about, so we have to place him just outside of our top 5. But fret not, we'd never be cold-hearted enough to separate him from Johnny's backpack. Sure, it's a backpack of few words, actually of no words, but this backpack is dear enough to Johnny for him to consider him the best man at his wedding. I have no idea if Johnny has some deep sentimental reason for loving his backpack so much, but it's honestly way funnier if there's no reason at all, so we'll just leave it here. Surprisingly, Johnny isn't the only human in the good category. Enter the Monster Fest humans. If Johnny and Mavis got the ball rolling on changing Drax's mind about humanity, these guys sent it all the way to the end of the lane. These are just a bunch of people who love monsters, and when they discover that they've encountered the real Dracula, they don't hesitate to help him find Johnny before it's too late by shielding him from the sun. That's some serious generosity for someone who's not just a vampire, but a vampire they didn't even know personally.
There's only one way, blah, blah, blah.
I do not say blah, blah, blah.
For every human who will murder their neighbors for being different, there are plenty more who would use their own cloaks to shield them from the sun. And that's a really heartwarming thing to see. Dana, the director, is one of the less traditional vampires in the series, but we have to give him some credit regardless. As the leading camp counselor, he takes a lot of pride in his work and does all he can to keep the kids safe.
Hokey pokey. See you at the campfire.
When he discovers that Dracula not only destroyed his camp, but endangered Dennis's life without even knowing if he was a vampire or not, he rightfully prepared to call the authorities. Vampire or not, being courageous enough to defy Count Dracula himself is pretty noble, so props to you, Dana. He might be lower than some other characters, but make no mistake, Tinkles is a very good boy. He's also a very big boy, which admittedly makes him look more threatening than he is in all seriousness. But that's okay. What this puppy lacks in carefulness, he more than makes up for in sheer love and affection. Not to mention how cooperative he can be, as long as he's well fed. And speaking of which, we have to give him the Gluttony Cinder Medal for that. While Tinkles is usually friendly, the more skeletal guests of the hotel would do well to keep their distance from him. I mean, that's just straight up body horror. This is some Attack on Titan level dread. Poor guys. On the topic of skeletons, we have to give a shout out to Skeleton Man. Given that he doesn't even have a name, you can probably infer that he doesn't have a major role in the series, but we wanted to shout him out anyway on the sole basis that he's always sticking up for his wife. Whether it's telling a curious human to keep his hands out of her, or telling off Dracula for invading her shower by accident, this guy has a bone to pick with anyone who disrespects his wife, and we respect that. Another unnamed entry. Next, we have to give the fish cruise workers a quick mention. Hailing from the third movie, these guys are a pretty simple bunch. They just want to give their customers a delightful time on the cruise they paid for, waiting on them hand and foot however the need arises. Quality customer service is important, and while they don't do it with a smile on their face, at least I don't think that's a smile, it's done with a lot of politeness. Now everybody give a hand, and a foot, and a head, and any body parts you have to spare for our next character, Frankie. As a close friend of Dracula, Frankie is an all-around decent guy. Sure, he's implied to have a bit of a gambling habit and more than a bit of an ego, for the latter of which will give him the Pride Cinder Medal. In the fourth movie, when Van Helsing's invention turns him handsome, he takes that newfound appearance and runs with it.
What's up, fellas?
But as full of himself as he can be, Frankie's the kind of celebrity who always treats his fans with respect, and additionally, he's always there when his loved ones need him. He'll even rub sunscreen on his wife's back while his hands are detached from his body. And closing out our good section, we have Murray the Mummy. Similarly to Frankie, Murray is a decent guy and a good friend of Drax, whose faults don't really extend beyond regular sins. We will have to give Murray the Lust Cinder Medal for the sheer fact that he's pretty flirtatious with the ladies, although he does treat them respectfully. But at the end of the day, Murray is another guy who will put himself in harm's way for the sake of his friends, and while he is flawed, none of his flaws are enough to push him into neutral territory. But with that said, it is time for us to move on to the characters who have more questionable moral compasses. This is the gray area. And we kick off this category with Wayne's better half, Wanda Werewolf. She isn't in the gray area for any egregious misdeeds or anything, but rather for being one of the more indifferent characters. I'll always sympathize with how much Wayne and Wanda have to deal with, considering how rambunctious their kids are, but Wanda is one of those fictional moms who seems like she'd be happier if she didn't even have kids sometimes. Now we have the man who ruined all of the internet's fanfictions about him with just one face reveal, Invisible Man. Yeah, remember when the internet got really mad at this movie for the fact that he looked like Mort Goldman from Family Guy? Good times. Like Wanda, he's one of the more indifferent characters in the series. He's nice enough, save for the occasional prank, even if it is pretty weird that he hangs around his friends naked most of the time.
I was just in the pool. The water's cold.
Don't judge me!
Of course, there was the scene in Transformania where he was willing to leave Blobby behind in a sinking boat to save himself, which could be the second time he's almost had a hand in Blobby's side in the series. Not cool, Mort. I mean, Invisible Man. But let's talk about the shrunken heads. Perhaps more so than anyone else in these movies, they're the embodiment of just doing my job. Instead of do not disturb signs, Dracula prefers to use sassy shrunken heads.
Oh, it's you. Glad you could make it.
On one hand, they'll roast you without a second thought, but on the other hand, they'll totally call you out if you're doing something wrong, particularly if your name rhymes with Mount Pracula. Next, we have a quick mention for Johnny's parents. Think of these two as, you ever met one of those people where they aren't very prejudiced, but they're not as not prejudiced as they think they are? That's these two. They're generally friendly enough, aside from the occasional snide remark from Linda. Calling humans normal is kind of insensitive, but they make an effort to accept Mavis into the family and make her feel welcome, as misguided as they can be. There are many fathers in Hotel Transylvania, but none of them have their work cut out for them as much as Wayne Werewolf. Wayne is the father of... he's got a lot of werewolf babies. Like Wanda, he's naturally exhausted by them a good bit, to the point where he seems disappointed when the daycare staff in the third movie tells him they will, in fact, be getting their children back at the end of the day. While he struggles to raise his kids, he's still ultimately a decent guy, always willing to help Dracula and his other friends out with whatever they need. Of course, then there's the matter of why he's in the gray area, which circles back around to his family. In Transformania, when he's turned into a human, he takes the opportunity to hide from his kids and knowingly leave his wife to do all the work. While it's the only major misdeed he has throughout the films, it's enough to call his family values into question and earn him the Sloth Sinner medal as well. The werewolves might need some couples counseling after that incident. Now, without further ado, let's give a hearty blah 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 to the main character himself, Count Dracula. Drac was a difficult character to play since he's one of those characters who has a lot going both for and against him. On one hand, Drac is one of the most altruistic monsters in the series. He built the hotel as a means of protecting Mavis and monster kind, providing what he hoped to be a safe haven from humanity. Despite his initial prejudice towards humanity, he comes around and eventually accepts them once Mavis falls in love with one, finding out that neither humans nor life itself are so bad. He's done a lot of generous good deeds, even down to saving Abraham Van Helsing from falling to his death in the third movie, despite him spending over a century trying to kill him. Unfortunately, Drac is one of those characters whose good deeds are just about balanced out by his bad ones. He has a serious lying problem and will go to some pretty extreme lengths to avoid change. This is a factor in 3 out of the 4 movie's core conflicts, from brainwashing Mavis into a state of human prejudice, to lying about why he refused to pass the hotel down to her and Johnny, all the way to his performance in the second movie, which included multiple counts of child endangerment and destruction of property.
That's a very unsafe tower. You're lucky we don't call the authorities.
He always makes up for his misdeeds, but the fact that he's consistently willing to tell lies and endanger his loved ones, to varying degrees per movie, keeps us from ranking him any higher. Next, we have Frankie's not really better half, Eunice. As Frankie's wife, she deals with no shortage of antics from him. As a result, you can't really blame her for being a little bit exhausted. The thing is, she's more than a little exhausted. Anytime she's on screen, you can safely bet that she's going to be nagging Frankie or one of his friends about something.
They're vicious, and they're very loud!
She's not a bad person by any means, but she's just kinda doing her own thing, really. If there's one character or group of characters the idea of doing your own thing applies to more, it's definitely the werewolf babies. These creatures are vicious, thoughtless beasts. In other words, they're toddlers. Sure, they're not malicious. I don't even think you can be malicious at that age. But their lack of respect and restraint means they're still among the least good of the series' ensemble cast. Next, we have the biggest monster in the series, the Kraken. Honestly, it's hard to really gauge this guy's moral compass since it seems like his character depends on what music he's surrounded by. When we first meet him, he sings a happy song to welcome the gang to Atlantis, but when Van Helsing enacts his evil plan, he becomes a mindless killing machine. Thankfully, when Johnny teaches the rest of the crews to do the Macarena, the Kraken calms down and turns against his master, saving the day at last. But from one giant to the next up is Gigi. He may look unassuming and adorable, and that's because he is. Well, for the most part. But it turns out that mutating him into a monster will lead to some serious destruction of property. It's one of those moments where a kid's movie has some real wisdom. Never pump your pet guinea pig full of steroids. Nearing the end of the gray area, we have one of the most important characters in the series, the elderly gremlin who didn't do that. She's constantly causing a ruckus, from eating a friend's winning bingo card to eating Johnny's scooter to, worst of all, eating little Dennis's whole birthday cake right in front of him. But the worst part about her is her gaslighting. The moment you call her on her behavior, she hits you with that iconic line.
I didn't do that.
Still, aside from being mischievous, we wouldn't say she's evil. At least she makes us laugh, so that's good for something. Drax's second zing, Erica Van Helsing, is up next. As the granddaughter of Abraham Van Helsing, she was raised to believe that monsters were pure, disgusting evil.
I won't try and kill him. I will kill him.
And she believed that for a long time, to the point where Abraham had to stop her from trying to kill Dracula right off the bat, pun intended. But as she spends more time with him, she slowly finds herself developing feelings for the monsters, some more romantic than others, and ultimately she finds the courage to defy her grandfather to help save the hotel gang from destruction. Of course, this was primarily motivated by her falling in love with Drac, but regardless of the means, she still had enough courage to overcome the beliefs she was raised under and become a better person. She even uses her old monster-killing machine in Transformania to help track down Dracula and Johnny, proving herself to be a full-on hero to monster kind. And just barely, narrowly missing out on falling into full-on villain territory, we have Vlad Dracula. And when I say narrowly, I mean very, very narrowly. His prejudice makes Drax look absolutely pleasant and tame in comparison. And even without taking that into account, he was more than willing to traumatize Johnny to help him grow his fangs. That's a seriously cruel move, but to his credit, once he realizes how much he upset both Dennis and Mavis, he has sincere remorse and helps find the former. He proves to have a change of heart in the end when he narrowly stops Bella from killing Johnny, threatening him to never come near him or his family again. And if all that isn't enough, he has some of the absolute sickest dance moves in the universe. But with the gray section wrapped up, it's time to get to the spookiest characters in the saga. These are the bad and the evil. And kicking off our bottom 5, we have the first movie's villainous duo of Quasimodo and Esmeralda. As Dracula's chef and Dracula's chef's pet rat, respectively, these two take a lot of pride in their work. Quasimodo loves cooking to the point where he'll resort to physically abusing his employees for mistakes. There's also the detail of how he's even more dedicated to keeping the hotel human-free than Dracula is, considering how he was willing to cook and eat Johnny. And honestly, if you had to eat some humans, why not go back in time to eat those murderous humans who killed Martha? These guys were honestly sorta difficult to rank. On one hand, I don't know how comfortable I would be with literal vampires living in my neighborhood, assuming I hadn't watched Hotel Transylvania and knew that they could be friendly. But on the other hand, like, they're vampires, dude. If they wanted to hurt you, they would have done it already. But they're just living their lives, so they clearly don't want to. But you know what does make vampires want to hurt you though? Killing their wife in cold blood. The bronze medal of evil has to go to the third movie's main villain, Professor Abraham Van Helsing. Now, right off the bat, I think this guy's a pretty easy choice for the Wrath Center medal. He held a grudge against Dracula for over 100 years, devoting his entire life to killing him, and expecting his granddaughter to do the same. His determination to kill monsters extended well beyond when humans were simply afraid of them. For Helsing, it's an act of sheer prejudice and ego. To the bitter end, he was determined to murder Drac and all the other monsters, and even after Dracula saved his life, which ultimately changed his mind, he was ready to only give them a 30% refund as an apology.
Oh, all right. Full refund.
Thankfully, he's become a better person. He's no longer a speciesist bounty hunter in the 4th movie, just a mad scientist who lives in a basement testing dangerous inventions on animals, which ultimately results in the hotel being destroyed and Johnny's brain almost being pulverized beyond recognition. So I guess he's making progress. But first, this video is brought to you by Wicked Binge channel memberships. You can gain access to our videos early before anyone else, plus get members-only emojis and loyalty badges by supporting the channel through a membership. The Silver Medal of Evil goes to the workers of Gremlin Airlines. Picture this. Take the minions from Despicable Me, give them all cocaine, and put them in charge of an airplane company. It sounds like a horrible idea, and it is. But the workers at Gremlin Airlines, unlike the minions, are intelligent enough to fly aircraft, offer snacks and drinks, and have their own lives and families outside of work. So the fact that they're constantly endangering their clientele speaks to the fact that these critters are legitimate psychopaths. From dangling passengers out on a rope for fresh air, to pouring hot coffee on their crotches, to literally trying to crash the plane instead of just landing it.
Okay, folks, you're free to move about the cabin as we have started our descent.
These creatures are absolute menaces, only saved from a lower spot by the fact that they aren't all there in the head. But taking our gold medal of evil is the one character who doesn't even have that defense, Bella, the human-hating vampire bat. As Vlad's underling in the 2nd movie, you wouldn't be blamed for thinking he would have a similar change in behavior. But the movie actually defies expectations by having him be the truly evil villain, going out of his way to hurt humans and monsters however he pleases. What makes Bella truly despicable, however, is the fact that he was willing to hunt down Dennis and Winnie, 2 very small children, and basically massacre them for sheer fun.
Humans don't belong with monsters!
Even Vlad, who hated humankind with a vengeance for centuries, was disgusted by his attempt to kill both them and Johnny, and now that I think about it, the fact that he was ready to kill part of Vlad's family means he wasn't even loyal to his old friend. He's the kind of monster those humans who killed Drax's wife were afraid of, and while they may have been mistaken in their fear-blinded hatred, Bella fully knew what he was doing, and he did it proudly and happily. Existential, bone-chilling horror isn't just for adults. There are plenty of scary movies and shows that the whole family can enjoy. But which are the best, and which are best left in the clearance section on November 1st? This is the family-friendly horror tier list. And like usual, we'll be starting with some of the worst examples of family-friendly scares. This is the F tier. And kicking things off, we're going back a whopping 45 years into the past for The Night Count Dracula Saved the World.
Good evening.
On this very special episode of We Have Hotel Transylvania at Home, Halloween is rumored to be canceled because a witch can't fly over the moon for some reason. So Count Dracula has to convince her to come back so she can fly over the moon, I guess. I mean, everybody knows how Halloween can't start officially until a witch flies over the moon, I think? I don't know. But anyway, the movie is cheesy. It has those classic 70s and 80s movie effects and tries not so subtly to be educational by teaching kids about the origins of Halloween.
Tell you what we are going to do.
For the time, I guess it's not so bad, but compared to the absolute classics you can pick from now, this one just does not hold up. Also note, Dracula's PR team has asked us to clarify that he said Igor here.
Igor, you did it again. How many times do I have to tell you?
The grunt beforehand is a coincidence and does not reflect Dracula's racial views. Now, if you want something boring that's at least cute, look no further than Spooky Buddies. I don't know what was up with Disney's obsession with Air Bud spin-offs in the 2000s, but for whatever reason, I guess they sold really well.
No way.
But like most of the Buddies movies, Spooky Buddies is just kind of there.
It's true. We have to take personal responsibility for our own actions.
You want to see some talking puppies go trick-or-treating? I can't fault you for that, I guess, but I feel like you could get the same experience by Googling cute puppy Halloween costumes for significantly less time and effort. Here, I'll get you started. Get a dog, little longy. Get a dog. And rounding out the bottom tier, we have Spookly the Square Pumpkin. Ironically, another generic Disney Halloween movie. Or at least one that was aired on Disney. I'm not sure if they want to claim this one. I can at least say that there's some ironic enjoyment to be taken out of it. You know that one Simpsons joke where Nelson is shocked at a pumpkin being racist? Imagine that for a whole movie, and that's this film.
You're a racist!
All pumpkins are racist. The difference is I admit it. Ugh.
I never thought I'd be watching a movie about racist pumpkins singing about how a child is going to rot for eternity because he's different, but here we are. But for any spookily sympathizers out there, fret not. When a horrific storm comes out of nowhere and nearly kills the entire town, Spookly saves their lives with the power of Square, and they all love him.
You saved our lives, Spookly.
Now that he's proven himself to be useful, it just goes to show you that if someone bullies you, all you have to do is risk your life to do something good for them, and everything will be okay. But that's enough sarcasm for one F tier. Let's just move on to the C tier. They aren't great, but if you don't have better options for some reason, these ones will do. And kicking off this tier, we have Disney's Haunted Mansion. One of the newer movies on our list, this one has some merits. It has the talents of Jamie Lee Curtis, who you might remember from the first Halloween movie. It also has Danny DeVito, whose Halloween credits include Who Cares? This is Danny DeVito we're talking about. Plenty of Disney fans enjoyed references to the titular attraction too, but sadly that's more or less all there is here. Critics called it too lighthearted for grown-ups and simultaneously too dark for a full-on family movie. You kinda have to at least commit to one of those, or both, but definitely not neither. That's a recipe for a forgettable movie.
Who said that?
Next up we have A Very Good Boy starring in a very decent movie, Frankenweenie. This might honestly be the most basic film on our list. You take the classic story of Frankenstein, turn it into the struggle of a boy facing the loss of his beloved pet dog, and make it a claymation film with the unmistakable creepiness of Tim Burton's directing. Sounds like the recipe for a fantastic movie, but honestly, this is one of those movies that peaks pretty early on. Seeing Victor wrestle with the loss of his dog is heart-wrenching, so when he's brought back to life, it seems like this is gonna be a really sweet story about a boy coming to terms with the loss of his dog.
With lightning and boom and
That it's okay to be sad, but that you should move on. Except it really doesn't do that.
Oh my.
They throw in a science fair, have some other kids bring their own pets back to life, and eventually it devolves into a smackdown between mutant pets all over the place, one that would have looked way cooler in color, mind you. I guess it's nice that Sparky survived in the end, but I don't know, man. Does anyone else find it unsettling to have a dog's reanimated, fragile corpse forced to live beyond its natural lifespan? Maybe that one American Dad episode ruined the idea for me, but I don't know. It's not bad, it's just very weird.
It's Daddy! Come to Daddy! Come.
And once again, sticking to Disney territory, we have Hocus Pocus. And honestly, opinions on this one are all over the place. Some people love it for its unapologetically silly, campy vibes, while others criticize it for pretty much that exact reason.
This is terribly uncomfortable.
I can see where both sides are coming from. It's a pretty silly movie and not the sort of thing anyone is praising for its masterful storytelling and cinematography. And if it is, well, they have some weird taste.
Twist the bones and bend the back.
As fun as this movie can be at times, it seems like the sort of thing you really have to grow up with to fully appreciate. Still, seeing Peggy Hill's voice actress play a witch is pretty hilarious. I can't deny that. In a similar realm, next up we have the Halloween Town movies. As some of the many Disney Channel original movies, these are among the more memorable ones. People love coming-of-age stories, and people love supernatural stories, so why not combine them? Throw in a cute Halloween-themed small-town setting, and you've got a recipe for some good, wholesome Halloween fun.
Like that helps him prepare for life. Personally, give me a good nature documentary any day. Halloween is cool, Nature Boy.
Enough to last for 4 movies spanning 8 years. And rounding out the C tier is the ugliest on the whole list, but Scary Godmother is still surprisingly not terrible, at least compared to how it looks. When little Hannah is left in a haunted house on Halloween night, the Scary Godmother shows up to help her realize that monsters aren't quite as scary as they seem.
Monsters!
And there are some pretty good jokes here too.
I mean, I don't sleep in a coffin at all. You're homeless?
The skeleton in the closet being an overly flamboyant skeleton will never not be funny. Scully Pettibone for the win.
Oh my, Scary Godmother! Sorry to be so late, but I just had to get these old bones bleached for the party.
Also, I have to say, as hideous as this movie's visuals are, they kinda have a nice style. I like the cel-shaded look of those houses in the background, and at least some of the characters have nice designs. Plus, this movie taught me that you can make marshmallows puff up up like little ghosts in the microwave. And that information is worth its weight in gold. But now we're getting to the good stuff. Not the great stuff, mind you, but the good stuff. This is the B tier, and quite possibly the most iconic Halloween special out there. It's The Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown kicks off this tier. And seriously, I feel like this one doesn't even need much explanation. It's Charlie Brown. He's a certified childhood classic. How his movies have remained recognizable for, what, 60 years now is anyone's guess. Probably more to do with Snoopy. But even though they're pretty straightforward, there's just this sort of universal charm to them. Like, I don't know what's funnier, believing a Santa Claus-coated pumpkin delivers toys to children on Halloween, or somehow mistaking a dog for a pumpkin.
I hear the Great Pumpkin!
Linus was just an icon. We would rank this one higher, but while it is a cute movie, it's more so remembered for all the fond memories associated with it, rather than the film itself. If that's enough for it to make it higher on your list, that's totally valid. But nostalgia only carries it so far when the competition is this fierce. We've talked about these a few times, but let's take a look at the Goosebumps movies from Sony Pictures Animation. In one of Jack Black's more serious roles, which isn't really saying much, I guess, he plays R.L. Stine, author of the titular Goosebumps books. These movies have all sorts of fun nods to that saga, full of kid-friendly horror monsters and some decent character arcs. I mean, just imagine the sheer existential horror of bringing a daughter into existence just so you won't be lonely, only to have to delete her from existence so the world won't be overrun by an evil dummy. Oh, sorry, an evil, very real wooden boy. Like the show and books that they're based on, these movies hit that nice balance of scary, but not too scary. On a list like this, that's exactly what we're looking for, but while they are good, they just don't hold a candle to the classic series. Now we return to the world of sorta, kinda, maybe claymation stuff with Paranorman. If you've ever wished you had the ability to see and communicate with spirits, this movie might make you think twice. Paranorman, which is an amazing movie name, by the way, tells the story of a boy who's belittled by peers and family alike for his unusual abilities, which, while it is obnoxious, is also understandable considering how he can't prove his powers. It's sad stuff, and it makes you really feel for the guy. Thankfully, it's one of those movies where you're just waiting for him to use these powers to save the day, get some friends, yada yada yada.
Read from the book. Stop the curse. Go home and pretend this never happened.
So it's a good movie in terms of both the spookiness factor and the surprisingly wholesomeness factor. Creepy, kooky, and spooky. Next we have the Addams Family.
Well, good evening. Is there anything you'd like to say to everyone?
This oddball family is one of the most iconic horror-themed properties out there, and there's definitely a case for placing it higher. But as you might have noticed, we didn't specify what Addams Family we're talking about. That's because depending on which one you're picturing, the final judgment would be rather different. The classic black and white show, it's cheesy, sure, but it's weirdly charming too.
The bats are my favorites, although the lizards are good too.
The 90s film, classic. Wednesday, iconic. The 2019 film, well, the others were good, right? In any case, we'll move on to Pooh's Heffalump Halloween. Who said every Halloween special has to be scary? Okay, fine, I'm sure some of you said that, but hear me out. Who doesn't love Pooh Bear? Are you really gonna tell this honey-loving angel you didn't like his Halloween special? It's nothing amazing or anything, it's just classic Winnie the Pooh filled to the brim with childlike innocence with a little coat of Halloween paint on it. And we can't complain about the movie that brought us Winnie the Pooh in a bee costume. And closing out the B tier, we have a film from the greatest saga in cinematic history, Scared Shrekless. Okay, sure, it's not as good as the iconic films, but what cinema has ever surpassed the first two Shrek movies? With the theme of satirical fairy tales starring a scary golden-hearted ogre.
Stories to make your blood run cold. Yeah. Stories to terrify you. Yeah. And whoever shall last through the night shall be named the King of Halloween.
A Halloween special is right at home in this universe. Seeing Gingy recounts the existential horror of dating a Yandir is admittedly the best part, but the other stories are fun too. And you can't forget the Halloween remix of the Duloc Welcome song. But while this is a good Halloween special as far as spin-offs go, there are plenty of other Halloween-themed properties we can't help but give a bit more credit to. So with that said, it's time to move on to the most iconic, most terrifying, in some cases, specials to snack on your candy with. This is the A tier, and we start with a stay at Hotel Transylvania. What screams Halloween more than a CGI Count Dracula voiced by Adam Sandler?
What's wrong with the classes we have here, like the kids' yoga?
Well, probably a lot of things, but nothing in quite the same way.
I'm human again!
And that pretty much sums up this series in general. Nobody's watching this series for masterful storytelling, but if you want silly voices, super expressive animation, and many, many monster-related puns, Hotel Transylvania is the film series for you. There's something comforting about a movie that's just worried about good, clean fun, so we decided it deserves a pretty high spot on our list. But let's talk about one of the darker movies on our list, Casper the Friendly Ghost. I know that Hanna-Barbera cartoons aren't the first things that come to mind when you think of dark subject material. But this movie took the opportunity to give Casper a tragic backstory. And honestly, a tragic everything. Seriously, if you want to spend Halloween in tears, check this movie out. Whoever decided that a Casper movie needed themes of abuse, terminal illness, mental illness, and lost love, I can't decide if you deserve an Oscar or a trip to an asylum, because that is a crazy leap. But let's talk about SpongeBob Legend of Bikini Bottom. While it's far from the most iconic claymation holiday special, this is one of the most impressive from a purely visual standpoint. Take the same charm from the claymation Christmas special, give it a new paint job, and finally add some neat special effects to match the Dutchman's coaster ride, and you've got a fun time for anyone, SpongeBob fan or otherwise.
I am the evil Dr. Frankencheeks.
Granted, as far as Halloween adaptations of classic cartoons go, there are a few that outdo the little square guy, but he gets some extra credit for having some pretty good Halloween episodes as well.
There is no candy here, only onions. Now move along.
Oh, candy. That is so scary. Right, SpongeBob?
Ghoul Fools goes hard. I'll admit, later season SpongeBob has its bangers. But as far as Halloween-themed cartoon specials go, few are as iconic as the legendary live-action Scooby-Doo movies. Scooby-Doo movies are a dime a dozen, but when they strike gold, man, do they strike gold.
Hey, I can look at myself naked.
Oh, brother.
These movies are corny and weird in all the right ways. You've got Scooby's weird CGI design, all the adult jokes they should not have gotten away with, Linda Cardellini in a red jumpsuit, and all sorts of other things.
Could you, Pamela? I am a lover boy of George Clooney in proportions.
Sure, they're not objective masterpieces or anything, but these movies are just too much fun not to enjoy.
Right in the round tables.
Like, come on, giving Scrappy-Doo a villain arc, playing into the fact that, like, almost everyone in the world hates him, it really is one of those great turn-off-your-brain films. But if you want something more story-driven, look no further than Are You Afraid of the Dark? This series keeps it nice and simple. You want the fun of campfire stories without the horrors of scheduling with your friends? Fret not, this series is literally about kids telling scary stories around the campfire. It's one of the few spooky series that manages to be kid-friendly without being too tame. The show can be really scary for a kid's show, and it still has a cult following to this day. This is one of those shows that you can just put on with a bowl of popcorn, watch a few episodes, and enjoy it. That is, if you're ready to risk having some nightmares. Have you ever felt bad about being clumsy? Well, if you have, just remember you aren't the protagonist of Corpse Bride. It's a whole new level of clumsy to accidentally get engaged to a dead lady, but thankfully that's about the only clumsy thing about this film. While it goes to some surprisingly dark places, it's also weirdly heartfelt at the same time. I mean, granted, it takes some suspension of disbelief to say "aw" to a skeleton dog's reanimated corpse, but still, in terms of both visuals and storytelling, Tim Burton really cooked here, even if it is overshadowed by another similar looking film of his style. It's also a great movie about the idea of moving on from tragedy as Emily slowly learns to accept that she lost her dream, and therefore doesn't want to take anyone else's for herself. It's a bittersweet ending, but you know who the real tragic figure is? Victoria. I mean, imagine being your husband's second choice behind a corpse.
Darling, who's this? Who is she?
That's definitely going to take some marital counseling. And closing the door to the A tier, we have Monster House. Another movie that combines horror and comedy. Monster House does both surprisingly well.
Get off my lawn!
It has a good enough story and solid enough jokes for any age to enjoy it.
All right, kids, this better be good. I was in the forest wrestling with a bear claw when we got the call.
And I could see a case for this being a good gateway horror film. It's not too scary, but it still has some disturbing elements and a pretty solid villain backstory, with the added touch of a happy ending for the kids. Which brings us to our final category, the best of family-friendly horror. This is the S tier. We've already mentioned the movies, but it's high time to give the Goosebumps series the attention it deserves. There's nothing that fits the bill of kid-friendly scary stories like a book series that got adapted into several movies, a few of which you probably saw in elementary school once or twice. There are a lot of these too, so you can just pick whatever setting or monster looks interesting, figure out how these children got involved with them, and enjoy the show.
The stairs. That's it. Go right up the stairs.
What makes Goosebumps so great, though, is precisely the fact that it's for kids. These movies aren't about the gore, because they can't be. It's about the story, about the atmosphere, about the, well, Goosebumps. It's sheer spooky fun, and few properties can capture the Halloween vibe better. But with that, we're about to move into the top 5. And okay, these two might not belong on this list, but the Beetlejuice movies are just too memorable not to mention.
I wonder where a guy, an everyday Joe like myself, could find a little action.
While they do have some foul language and innuendos, these are fairly tame aspects of scary movies. Make no mistake, the Beetlejuice movies are some of the most unapologetically goofy in Halloween history. This is due to two key aspects: goth Winona Ryder and the man himself, Beetlejuice. One is a character whose endearing weirdness only makes her even weirder family more entertaining, and the other is one of the most depraved creatures in Halloween history. Combined, these two make for one of the most bizarre Halloween sagas you can watch. And as you can tell by its placement, we are big proponents of the idea that Halloween and weirdness belong together. Even over 30 years, Beetlejuice hasn't lost his luster. It's still just as funny, campy, and weird as it always was, if not more so. Add in a satisfying extension of Lydia's character arc, her daughter having an equally interesting one, and the fact that they got Danny DeVito to guest star as the janitor of hell, and you've got a recipe for a sequel that we didn't know we needed. Just outside of our top 3 is one of Cartoon Network's most iconic series, Courage the Cowardly Dog. Goosebumps may be the most iconic example of kid-friendly horror stories, but Courage is even more infamous for getting away with way more than it should have.
Can one of you boys give me a hand?
To quote a famous tweet, Courage was never a coward. That stuff was just terrifying. From horrific claymation violinists to slab-hunting corpses to whatever the hell that blue fetus thing in the You're Not Perfect episode is.
You're not perfect.
This show has some of the scariest subject matter of any kid series out there.
Return the slab, or suffer my curse.
What's your offer?
That creepiness factor makes it one of the most widely renowned series in Cartoon Network history, and a perfect one to put on during your own Halloween festivities. But if we're going to talk about widely renowned Halloween stuff, we need to talk about The Nightmare Before Christmas. Combining America's two favorite holidays is a surefire ticket to creating a certified Christmas Halloween classic. And that's exactly what Tim Burton did with this movie. The story of Jack Skellington having an identity crisis leads him to transition from running the same old Halloween town year after year to taking over Christmas and putting his own spin on it.
They're celebrating!
The stunning claymation is a highlight, as are the special effects and musical numbers. From an entire song about kidnapping Santa to Oogie Boogie soulfully singing about how terrible he is for kidnapping Santa. Man, poor Santa. There's a lot of good symbolic stuff here. A solid character arc from both Jack and Sally, and some of the most intricately detailed set pieces you can find. But for those of us who are more sensory, just know it looks and sounds great. And Santa does eventually escape from his clutches. From October to December, there really isn't a single movie more iconic to watch. But as far as claymation horror films go, we're giving the upper hand to Coraline. Equal parts terrifying and adorable, Coraline tells the story of a neglected young girl finding herself in the scheme of a child-eating, shape-shifting demon.
I better get home to my other mother.
But I'm your other mother.
And yes, this is a kids movie, though I'm not sure how. I'm equally unsure of how they made it so damn beautiful. I mean, the colors, the subtle differences between the dolls and the real ones. This movie's artistic style allows it to cover the whole spectrum of cute to creepy, from an adorable mouse circus to a legitimate eldritch horror demon.
She's got this whole world where everything's better. The food, the garden, the the neighbors, but it's all a trap.
Despite a pretty slow pace, Coraline somehow never feels boring. Almost the entire movie takes place in either a house or a different version of the same house. But because of how entertaining the characters are, how unforgettable the art style is, and how quickly you can sympathize with Coraline's struggle to connect with her folks, it keeps you hooked for the whole runtime. Coraline is an iconic movie, and although it's certainly rather creepy, it's a movie you can pretty much enjoy any time of the year. But the top of our Halloween watch list is none other than the king of mixing comedy and horror, Invader Zim. The brainchild of horror enthusiast Jhonen Vasquez. Invader Zim tells the story of an incompetent alien invader trying to doom a planet full of somehow even more incompetent humans.
Oh man! An alien! An alien!
False alarm.
If you want horror, you've got it here. From one of the spookiest Halloween specials in Nicktoons history to a whole episode dedicated to organ harvesting, to Gaz's whole existence being a nod to horror movies in and of itself,
Dib drank the last soda. He will pay.
there's really no shortage of creepy stuff here. But don't worry about things getting too creepy. This is one of the absolute funniest cartoons out there.
We're the only ones here with the files to be decoded.
And I don't know.
From the unrivaled insanity of Zim to the attempted heroics of Dib, and of course, the unpredictable hilarity of Gur. This show is a blast no matter where you fall on the horror fan spectrum, so if you're looking to laugh and scream at the same time, you might want to check out Invader Zim. And more importantly, stay safe this Halloween. You never know when a robotic mongoose dog could come for you and your candy. Monsters may usually hide inside haunted houses, but what about when the monster is the haunted house? Today we're revisiting Monster House and ranking all the characters from good to evil. And we'll be starting with the heroes who were able to help keep the neighborhood safe from rogue houses. These characters are the good. And the gold medal of good actually has to go to the person who looks like they deserve the medal the least. Horace Nebelcracker. Yeah, Horace is certainly a firecracker with how he yells at people to stay off his property.
Get off my lawn!
However, there's a good reason for this. His wife is quite nasty, possessing his house after death and planning on killing and eating as many kids as possible. His cranky old neighbor routine is just him scaring kids away to keep them safe. Sure, maybe taking their property is a bit over the top, but hey, it helped sell the act. After having a heart attack and recovering, he goes right back, stealing an ambulance to not only help calm down the monster house and reassure Constance, but he even tries to end her himself via mercy killing. After DJ blows the house up, he changes his tune and even with his house and wife forever gone, ends up willingly giving back all the stolen property he took for his ruse over the years, befriending DJ for his help. This isn't even taking into account that he was in the US Army Demolition Squad before retiring and fell in love with Constance and saved her from an abusive circus environment. Despite everything seen or how he acted at first, he's honestly a more heroic version of Carl Fredricksen, an elderly man who became cranky due to his dead wife. So here's hoping he gets the new beach house he deserves. The silver medal of goodness has to go to the hero leading the charge, Dustin James Walters, or DJ for short. Think Dib, but more heroic. He's been watching over the Nebelcracker house, seeing what's going on and what Horace has been stealing.
October 30th. Another tricycle.
However, after getting too close, he ends up seeing Horace suffer a heart attack and get wheeled into an ambulance. Feeling guilty, thinking he killed him, he decided to try and take up the mantle of finding out everything about the house, what happened with Constance, and how to finally stop her. Even with most of the people talking with him saying he's crazy, he still pushes forward to find a way to stop everything. Overall, while Horace was responsible for ensuring that no one got injured, DJ helped finish the job and became genuine friends with Horace, earning him the silver medal of good. The bronze medal of good has to go to Jennifer Bennett, or Jenny. First coming up as a Girl Scout selling cookies, she originally doesn't believe the house is haunted, but after almost falling to it, she joins DJ and Chowder to protect the neighborhood in time for Halloween. While DJ is good at starting plans with prep time, Jenny can think on the fly, using the house's chandelier uvula to safely force them out, help plan around the house's insides, and help encourage DJ to cross the top of the crane to toss the dynamite into the chimney. Despite originally thinking DJ and Chowder were weird,
Normally, I don't spend time with guys like you.
Jenny ended up being just as valuable to stopping the house as them. Which brings us to the last of the main three kids. Next up is Charles, aka Chowder, the Rowley to DJ's Greg, minus the questionable toxic friendship. He first arrives dressed for Halloween, including a mask he can't see out of, so we're definitely giving him the Darwin medal for that. But aside from that, he remains a loyal and chipper friend to DJ, and after realizing the house is alive by wisely taunting it and ding-dong ditching it, follows DJ in planning to stop it. Despite him constantly being tricked by the house, including with a basketball to lure him, he still does his best to aid the group. Considering he willingly distracted the house and used an excavator to fight against the monster, we had to place him in the good section. And finally, rounding out the good section, we have to mention Reginald Skull Skolinski. He played a small role, just being the town's gamer, but ended up helping guide the kids onto the right track. Being the one to believe them, he deduced that the house was haunted by a spirit.
You've got to strike at the source of life, the heart.
And informed them that they had to kill the heart of the structure. He does, however, earn the Sloth Sinner Medal for playing 4 days straight with no bathroom breaks, but at least he gave us the eating meme before leaving. But with the good section wrapped up, we now move into more neutral territory. These characters fall into the moral gray area. And next on the scene are Officers Lister and Landers. These two cops are the ones the kids call to warn them about the house. Of course, with such a monster story, they don't believe them and even accuse them of vandalism and stealing cold medicine.
And treason! No, not treason. You sure?
Leading to their arrest. Granted, they did steal the medicine for a plan, but they had a genuine reason. As soon as the cops find out the house is alive, they focus on trying to stop it, with Landers trying to save Lister, and when it's all over, calm their nerves with candy. Between the two, Landers is the more playful and friendly one, and Lister is the inexperienced, aggressive cop. So if we had to rank them separately, Landers would win. Though at the end of the day, they don't mean to stop the trio's plans to save the neighborhood. It's just that, from their view, they're just kids messing around with an old house. Next up, we have DJ's parents. Now, if you're wondering just who they are and have seen this movie before, well, congratulations, because you pretty much know everything there is to know about these dentists. They spend most of the movie being away at a dentist convention, leaving DJ alone with his babysitter. They do know that DJ spends a lot of time watching the Nebblecracker's house, but they still try to tend to and care for their son, even if they think he's crazy. Fair, they don't know that DJ's right and the house is haunted, and they just assume after everything that happened, DJ and Chowder were just trick-or-treating as dirty pirates. They're oblivious, but it's clear they still love and support their son. And rounding out the gray area, we have Elizabeth, aka Z. Yeah, Z is hostile to DJ, even breaking a plant and saying that she'll tell his parents he did it after he was bored by her rules. She did also break up with Bones and tried to date Skull to make him jealous, getting annoyed that it didn't work, which earns her the Lust Sinner Medal. So she is also a terrible girlfriend. Mostly she's apathetic to anything DJ has going on. However, she isn't completely ruthless. When Bones goes too far messing with DJ, she breaks it up and even rejects the idea that Horace is evil, and just more of a jerk than anything else.
No, he's just a crotchety old dude.
She even tries to ensure DJ and Chowder get breakfast after an all-nighter, even if said breakfast is just candy. And with the gray area wrapped up, we now get to the dark side. These characters are the bad and the evil. And the bronze bonehead of badness here is Bones. This guy is just a walking red flag, being introduced as someone who is less caring to DJ than Z is. He's a drunkard who is dating Z and is more than happy to mess with her and DJ. He managed to anger Z enough by not just telling him to stop messing with DJ, but also kicking him out after he goes too far messing with her, and telling her about how Nebblecracker stole his kite and killed his wife. He just continues going on his bender, insulting the Nebblecracker house.
I'm on your lawn, Nebblecracker!
And falling for its obvious bait of a new kite. The silver medal of evil has to go to Constance's bullies. These jerks, back in the day, were the ones that kept on constantly abusing and making fun of Constance. While Horace and Constance were building their house, these brats were egging and mocking Constance in the house they were building. And when Horace tries to keep her calm, seeing her get more and more easily agitated, they still keep on trying to egg her on, literally. They don't know when to stop mocking others, even when they're being confronted. This leads to Constance taking an axe and charging towards them, and when Horace tries to stop her, it leads to him accidentally causing her to fall into a cement pit, killing her. But first, this video is brought to you by Wicked Binge channel memberships. You can gain access to our videos early before anyone else, plus get members-only emojis and loyalty badges by supporting the channel through a membership. With that said, even they don't deserve the gold medal of evil, which has to go to Constance Nebelcracker, aka the Monster House. We're not going to argue that Constance had a tough life, being a circus freak show, and deserved to get out of it.
I can take you away from here.
However, she certainly has an anger problem, and she definitely gets the Wrath Sinner Medal for trying to kill kids for egging her in her house, which, let's be real, is a huge overreaction, even if we do understand her pain. That said, as the titular Monster House, she becomes even worse. She possesses the house after her death, and ever since the house was completed, she kept on abducting and killing any kids or anything that disturbed her peace. Yeah, we see the victims are all fine, but after 60 years old, and given how it was willingly chasing after DJ's group in the end, we think she most likely killed a couple of unfortunate victims before DJ stopped her. She finally died and was able to be at peace, but all those swallowed victims aren't going to easily forgive and forget that. Heck, even Horace was excited to be free, and if your husband is excited to see you dead after doing everything he can to make you happy, then it's probably time to hike it over to the great beyond. Halloween, the perfect combination of scary and fun. But not everything about this spooky holiday is equally awesome. This is the official Halloween tier list, and we'll start with the proverbial doors you'd do well not to knock on. These are the F-tier aspects of Halloween. And I guess our first entry is a public service announcement to beware of dangerous candy. Look at that stuff. Doesn't it look delicious? Don't you just want to grab a mouthful? Well, don't, because it's fentanyl. That's right, the very thing that took Wembley's iconic sidekick, Mr. Millipede, away from us before his time.
Ew, ew, ew.
As rare of an occurrence as it is, there are some sickos out there who get their kicks off of needless violence.
Does that stuff exist? Yes.
And although instances of drugs or razor blades found in candy might be rare or even embellished, you never really know. So our advice is don't trust any candy that's unmarked or out of package. You never know if your candy bar could be laced with fentanyl or razor blades or a computer capable of running Doom. Actually, that last one would be pretty cool as long as you don't eat it. Now, rounding out our F tier is something just very, very, very slightly better than fentanyl and razor blades. Candy corn. Now, I don't know where this stuff comes from, I don't know who buys it, and I don't know who actually enjoys it.
You can wear them as teeth?
What I do know is, this is the worst candy of all time. I mean, it's 2024, and it's time to have a serious conversation about banning this stuff nationwide. But thankfully, this next category is at least better than razor blades and candy corn. The D tier includes aspects of Halloween that at least kinda have their good points. Next, let's talk about bobbing for apples. Yeah, believe it or not, bobbing for apples is most commonly an activity done at Halloween parties. Why exactly this ended up being the case is anyone's guess, but I don't know, man. Imagine the germs in that bucket if you were like anyone after the first person to play.
How do you like them apples?
Not to mention the choking hazard. I saw what happened to Mr. Krabs, and I do not want that for myself.
Oh, Dad, you're embarrassing me again!
Now, I know this one is going to be divisive, but up next we have pumpkin spice flavoring. And before we get hundreds of comments about it, let me just clarify. If you enjoy your pumpkin spice lattes or your donuts or some other third pumpkin spice thing and it makes you happy, you enjoy it. It's just like, why is it only considered to exist for a month or two?
It's a pumpkin-y swirl onto a beautiful, beautiful beverage. I love it. I love this time of year. I love pumpkin spice latte.
And just to be clear, there are other superior seasonal flavors, like, say, peppermint for winter, that don't get a fraction of the hype as the pumpkin spice does.
See what they're doing? They're putting pumpkin in everything. It's not even that good.
Yes, it is. It's yummy and it's seasonal.
It's like people have a pumpkin spice chip implanted in their brains that goes off in October just to get people to go to Starbucks. But now let's move on to some more favorable activities. These are the C-tier Halloween activities. And we'll start out with pumpkin patches. Yeah, we've seen all those posts. Around fall, single women everywhere long for a man or woman to take them on the coveted pumpkin patch date. And it is a cute date idea. But I guess the activity is just better if it is an actual date. If you're single, it's just, I don't know. Maybe you just want to go get a pumpkin at Walmart or something. Then again, maybe you just enjoy the nature and the experience of picking out your own pumpkin right from its natural habitat. And actually, you know what? I think that's great. I guess it's one of those things that is for everyone, as long as you have a girlfriend or you really like fall scenery. I guess if you don't fit into one of those categories though, you should just stay home. But on a similar topic, let's talk about the age-old tradition of jack-o'-lantern carving. And I'll say this right away, a well-made jack-o'-lantern looks great. Whether it's a creepy face, a cute design, or even just a nicely painted pumpkin, it's a perfect item to spruce up your fall aesthetic. But as iconic as jack-o'-lanterns are, there's more to it than meets the eye, most notably lifespan. You'll be able to display jack-o'-lanterns for a few days, sure, but after that it's all downhill from there. These guys lose more shape than that mukbang YouTuber and force you to toss all that hard work in the garbage after just a few days. They're enjoyable while they're in their prime, but that ending is just, it's sad. It feels kinda bad, man.
I'm in love! No, wait, it's a stroke.
On the lighter end of pranks is, well, lighthearted pranks. Ruining the hard work and crafts of kids and families just trying to have fun is never cool, but there are some pranking traditions associated with Halloween that aren't so bad. Ding Dong Ditch is fine, for instance, because what's the harm? Then there are some pranks that are more in the gray area, like egging houses or TPing houses, which will probably get you in trouble if you get caught, but when we were teenagers, we all did it anyway.
Hi parents, I'm here to teach your kids how to throw toilet paper. And fling this thing. I'll fling it like your life depends on it, right?
That said, if you're the type to steal a whole bowl of candy left unattended,
Call the cops.
it's likely that you are a psychopath with a long life of crime ahead of you, and there's no defending that. But let's enter the upper half of the list. Let's talk about B-tier Halloween activities, starting with the age-old tradition of scary stories. Not a lot of people usually spend Halloween around a campfire, but if you do, you've just gotta play into the tradition of scary storytelling. Whether you're telling the age-old tale of the Flying Dutchman, or telling urban legends to your friends,
With the haunting memory of my ghostly ghost pirates!
it adds that extra bit of spooky character that makes Halloween so special. But if it's so iconic, then why isn't it ranked higher? Well, sadly, the modern attention span isn't too great at listening. If you want to tell a scary story people really pay attention to, you'll have to be a pretty exceptional storyteller.
Ooh, scary. No! No! That's impossible!
Maybe listen to some of those creepypasta scary story YouTube channels. Scary stories are an art that takes skill, and the same goes for haunted houses. These are in another league from just scary stories since they're often paid attractions. The quality is naturally going to vary. Sometimes you'll have some seriously creepy escape room type deals, complete with actors and decorations that look like they crawled right out of the abyss itself. Other times you might have a more easygoing haunted house experience.
No, please you can go.
No. You guys are going first. Here.
No, it's
Not in an intentionally lighthearted way, but more like a we rated the Halloween section at 5 below, so you get what you get kind of way. Still, the idea of a haunted house is pretty cool. Like stories, it just depends on the skill and the imagination. If you've got someone who's good at practical effects and someone with a big, possibly messed up imagination, you've got the makings of a good haunted house. Just, like, don't go too haunted. Last thing you want is a lawsuit because some kid was too scared by a plastic skeleton. Speaking of kids, it's time to get nostalgic. Next up are school Halloween parties. Some schools would let you wear a costume, others would have little goodie bags of candy, and as you'd get into high school, you might even have some dedicated Halloween parties with costumes, snacks, and, well, that's pretty much it. But still, most importantly, it broke up the school day, which was a huge bonus. Next we have Halloween-themed baked goods, and there's an argument to be made for these being included in a tier list of just about any holiday. Whenever a new season begins, you can bet money on the fact that every store you go to is going to have some specific treats for it. Decorative cookies, color-coded cupcakes, and frosted sugar cookies, or even those frozen Pillsbury cookies that literally change nothing but the little design on the front.
So much fun there!
Scary!
Obviously, candy takes the spotlight when it comes to Halloween sweets, but it's all too easy to ignore all the great options for other treats in the holiday. But while it does technically fit into the previous entry, we have to give a special shout out to Soul Cakes. If these sound unfamiliar, that's because they are. You'll want to go way back to the 1500s to medieval England to learn about these. In essence, soul cakes were an ancient Christian All-Hallowtide, aka Halloween, tradition, and were basically a combination of trick-or-treating and Christmas caroling. Kids would go door to door singing prayers for the departed loved ones of their neighbors. Said neighbors would give them a sort of shortbread biscuit type thing called a soul cake, in exchange for the promise that the one who knocks would pray for their departed loved ones. That's right, these kids went all the way to the future to ask Walter White himself to pray for their loved ones. While it's definitely a product of its time, back when purgatory was a way more popular and often weaponized belief, it's still quite a sweet gesture, even if it has a bit of a questionable side to it. Like, what happens if you don't give the kid a soul cake? Will they just refuse to pray for your dead relatives? Or will they pray for them to be sent to the other side of purgatory? I feel like you could definitely twist this into some kind of supernatural blackmail, honestly. That said though, those cakes look delicious. Now we're getting into the really iconic stuff. These are the near essential parts of Halloween, the A tier. Kicking the category off is the less popular cousin of trick-or-treating, trunk-or-treating. If you grew up around churches or public schools, you probably know about trunk-or-treating already. Basically, if you think trick-or-treating is utterly satanic, or more likely, a bit too dangerous to have kids walking around at night, trunk-or-treat condenses the fun into a smaller area. Admittedly, it's not the same as trick-or-treating. You won't get the fun of going to different houses you've never seen before, and it'll be a smaller space to explore. But it still includes the invaluable parts of trick-or-treating, candy and costumes. On that note, we have to give a shout out to Halloween decorating. It was inevitable that Halloween decor would be getting its own category, and pretty high up too. Sure, it depends on how much money and time you've got to spare, but if you have the desire and the resources, you can go all out like you're Mr. Chew from that one Goosebumps movie. Just deck your house out with balloon spiders, semi-realistic spider webs, and accent it with your own costume too. Honestly, when you outgrow Halloween, trick-or-treating, and parties, you can always still be that one middle-aged dude that turns the task of decorating his house for Halloween into a second job. Tons of decorations, lighting, fog machines, creepy ambiance playing from a sound system, about 24 Home Depot runs, hanging body parts from his roof on a 20-foot ladder, chain smoking Newports and pounding Miller Lights.
Check this out.
That guy's awesome. He's insane, but he's got the Halloween spirit. Nearing the top of our list, we couldn't possibly leave out scary movies. Whether you're watching with friends or a romantic partner, or just filling yourself with pure existential dread, scary movies are a fun time all around, assuming you don't have a weak stomach. You have to appreciate the sheer variety of horror films. There's the really existentially terrifying ones like Candyman, Hellraiser, or The Mist. Or if you want something more in the classic slasher category, you've got the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Friday the 13th, A Nightmare on Elm Street, or Halloween. Or if you like stuff that's a bit lighthearted and ironic, you can check out the Scream series. Not to mention the so bad they're good type of horror movies. Like the cinematic masterpiece that is Leprechaun in the Hood. You're not convinced? What if I told you the Leprechaun could freestyle rap?
I'm a wee green guy who's new to town. Show me what you do when you get down. I'll go up, you go down, we'll call.
But maybe scary movies aren't for you. And that's fine, because this is Wicked Binge, so we're definitely going to talk about Halloween cartoon specials. Whether you're looking for something lighthearted like Family Guy or SpongeBob, or something that can actually fill that scary story vibe like Gravity Falls or a regular show, the variety of cartoon Halloween episodes is pretty great.
We're going to haunt you forever.
Even better though, there are some entire series that are a good fit for a Halloween binge. Courage the Cowardly Dog comes to mind, given that the entire series is about a dog confronting some of the most utterly terrifying things you could possibly imagine them putting into a kid's show.
You're not perfect.
Invader Zim also strikes a similar chord, but with a more comedic edge.
Earth is safe once more, but for how long?
Be quiet!
It'll range from an episode about harvesting the organs of innocent children to one about a giant hamster confronting the US military. But with that, we've finally reached the stuff you cannot separate from Halloween. These are the S-tier picks, the stuff you can't have Halloween without, and the main reasons why we love it so much. And we're starting this entry out with an inevitable discussion about Halloween candy. And for this entry, we're actually doing a bit of a first here. We're doing a mini tier list inside of our tier list, so that we can rank Halloween candy from worst to best. Think of it like a fun-sized tier list. First up in the F tier, we have healthy food. Come on guys, eating healthy is great, balanced diets are important, but Halloween is about candy. If you're handing out carrot sticks or raisins on Halloween, you're just asking for your house to get egged.
Oh crap!
Next up, candy corn. We've made our position very clear. Candy corn is solidly F tier.
Just eat lots of it.
And then circus peanuts, what are these? Who was high enough to come up with the idea of making an orange marshmallow flavored like bananas and shaped like a peanut?
If you're really lucky, you can get the bag that have the blue and yellow and pink pastel colored ones. There's nothing more to say.
And rounding out the F tier, and this one's gonna be controversial, but look, it needs to be said, Twizzlers. If you're a licorice fan, I hate to be the one to tell you this, but you're wrong. Okay, next up in the D tier, we have Tootsie Rolls. Are they the worst thing? No. But let's be real, they're always the last candy to get eaten from the Halloween haul. And similarly, we have Smarties. Smarties are the definition of an okay candy. It's hard to think of a more bare bones candy, and that's not necessarily a terrible thing, it's just nothing special. Okay, next up, C tier. Starting with fruit snacks. It's not quite fruit, it's not quite candy. Fruit snacks are truly just in their own realm.
Flavored snacks? What's wrong with these people? There's barely any fruit in there.
No. Nothing too special, but not bad. Then you got Jolly Ranchers, and these are simple but pretty good. The only downside to a Jolly Rancher is if you make the mistake of biting into one. Okay, Ring Pops. These are ridiculously messy, but at the same time, it just wouldn't feel like Halloween without them. Their service is appreciated. Next up, many will probably say that I'm ranking this too high, but pretzels.
Prove it, pretzel boy.
For some weird reason, pretzels are a very popular snack to hand out on Halloween. But the thing is though, sweet and salty go together very well. So I, for one, appreciate the pretzels. And last in the C tier, we have Dum Dums. And honestly, they have a ludicrous variety of flavors. And the cotton candy one has always been my favorite. Okay, moving on to the B tier, Bubble Gum is a certified candy classic.
Hey, you got him? Uh-huh. They good? Really good.
It's sweet, it's iconic, it's long-lasting, usually, and you can blow bubbles with it, unless you can't. In which case, it's still pretty awesome. Next are Whoppers. If you've ever had an actual malt milkshake, Whoppers are like more condensed versions of that experience. Then there's Peppermints, and I don't know how often these end up in the candy bag, but Peppermints are legendary. That's just a fact. Next, we've got Sweet Tarts, and they're like Smarties, but much better. And I think that's really the only way to describe them. And then there's Bottle Caps, and they're like Sweet Tarts, but soda flavored. So this is kind of like the end of the natural evolutionary line of the Smarties. But now we get to the really good stuff. Now we're at the A tier. And we start out the A tier with the Hershey Bars. Hershey Bars are a certified candy classic.
Hershey, that's something special no matter where you are.
You gotta love Hershey Bars, and if they're Hershey Bars with the almonds in it, it gets bumped up a couple spaces easy. Next, we got the Halloween Oreo packs. If you've ever handed out those little 2-packs of the Halloween Oreos to trick-or-treaters, I just want to say that you're wonderful. Keep doing what you're doing. We're gonna put Butterfingers in the A tier too. I feel like these aren't as popular as they used to be.
You ingest this earthly confection for pleasure. We shall study this Butterfinger.
As well as you.
Let me take you to my leader.
But they're unique both in flavor and texture, also easy A tier. Another very underrated Halloween candy, Almond Joy. Chocolate, coconut, almond, microplastic. The four nations of American cuisine once lived in harmony, and they still do. And then we got the Three Musketeers. It's like if you made a chocolate mousse into a candy bar. And we can't forget about Nerds. These little things are just really satisfying to eat. They taste good, yeah, and you can pace yourself how you like and all. That's great. But the crunch, man, the crunch. The sheer aura these things emit, incredible. And top of the A tier, we've got M&M's and Skittles. Think of the satisfying crunch that we gave Nerds credit for, but now make it chocolate. Now you're getting somewhere. But if chocolate's not what you want, worry not, there's always Skittles, the less traditional cousin of the M&M.
Skittles commercial with the witch, remember?
Please, get out of my house.
Can I have some more Skittles?
And that brings us to the S tier of candy, and we gotta start with Twix. Dude, caramel and chocolate together? Are you kidding? Is it a candy? Is it a cookie? No, it's something far greater. Can't forget about the gummy Krabby Patties. That's right, SpongeBob SquarePants himself was willing to help out with our Halloween enjoyment. He brought Krabby Patties to our dimension, turned them into delicious gummy candies, each with their own distinctive texture and marginally different flavor.
Fluffy seaweed seed buns.
Yes! Yes!
Okay, we're in the top 3, and the bronze medal has to go to the Kit Kat bar. Whether you share them with friends, eat them slowly and steadily by yourself, or act like a total serial killer by biting into it horizontally, Kit Kats are arguably the king of mass-produced chocolate bars.
Kit Kat bar! Yeah!
With the exception of the Snickers. Bro, if you don't like Snickers, what's your problem? Snickers make everybody feel better. And somehow, if you throw them in the freezer, they're even more delicious.
We will win this for Mother Russia!
Coach, eat a Snickers.
Why is that, Chief?
You get a little loopy when you're hungry. Better.
But they still can't hold a candle to the best candy of all time.
Shut up! God, teach Peter a lesson.
Marcia, eat a Snickers.
Why?
You get a little hostile when you're hungry. Better? Better.
And yes, this is an objective fact. Reese's Peanut Butter Cups are the best Halloween candy, hands down. They are the undisputed heavyweight champion of Halloween candy. And there's no better combination than chocolate and peanut butter.
Together, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups.
Real milk chocolate, delicious peanut butter.
It's like Halloween magic in a cup, except it's not a cup, it's a duo of flavor-packed discs that make you question why you ever settled for less. Okay, with our very controversial candy ranking completed, we've reached our peak Halloween activities. The bronze medal of Halloween greatness goes to grown-up Halloween parties. Some people might say that you're too old to celebrate Halloween once you're in college or beyond. Never trust such people under any circumstances. Once you're an adult, you get the choice to throw or attend your own Halloween parties, if you so desire. On top of the decorations, candy, and costumes, you can even throw in some grown-up drinks and socialize. And yeah, a lot of people say Halloween is kind of a trashy holiday as you get older, but you know what? It's fun. Yeah, two guys dressed up as Beetlejuice and Wolverine might get into a fist fight while some chick dressed up as Harley Quinn vomits all over a parking lot, but there is something kind of magical about the innocent love of Halloween following us all into adulthood. But still, it doesn't beat trick-or-treating, which gets the silver medal of Halloween greatness. Trick-or-treating is designed with kids in mind, but the great part is that adults and teenagers can enjoy it too. Not by doing the trick-or-treating themselves, but by decking out the outside of your front door however you want, all to make the experience of the trick-or-treaters more memorable. Or if you don't like putting smiles on the faces of the general public, Squidward, you can just close your windows and turn off your lights.
Coming to bed, honey?
Yes, dear.
Trick-or-treating is whatever you make of it, and that's a big part of what makes it so fun. But we'd argue there's one part that's even more important. We have to give the gold medal of Halloween greatness to the quintessential aspect of costumes. One theory about Halloween's origin states that people initially wore costumes to scare off phantoms, spirits, ghosts, and some other fourth word for spooky stuff. That tradition has changed, only instead of scaring off spirits, it's to intimidate the masses into giving you sweets. No matter what your interests are, there's a costume out there for you.
What the hell are you supposed to be?
Want to dress as your favorite superhero, cartoon character, or item of licensed food? You got it. Want to dress your dog as a bee or your baby as a dog? I will judge you for making your dog wear that costume that he certainly doesn't want to wear, but you can do it. Putting together a costume when you're a kid is awesome. And heck, even adult Halloween costumes are really huge. There's a reason why cosplaying is such a popular hobby. As an adult, the only limit is the one in your mind and your wallet, but who cares about that right now? You can be an inflatable Garfield, a terrifying Grim Reaper, that one weirdly specific side character from an anime nobody else watches. The world is your candy bar, whether you're trying to be cute or scary or even seductive.
I think we look hot. Totally hot.
Ugly bitch!
Yeah, I know what you're looking for. Happy Halloween, everybody.
You, however, are finished.
With a nearly $40 million opening day, it's safe to say that Freddy Fazbear's long-awaited big screen debut was a huge success. Whether you're brand new to the series or a super fan who's absorbed every last piece of the series' media, this is a fun film, due mainly to having such a great cast of characters. But you know the drill. Which of these characters are doing a stellar job, and which ones are more likely to get a bit quirky at night? Welcome to Wicked Binge. This is Five Nights at Freddy's the movie, good to evil. And of course, spoilers ahead. Now grab yourself some pizza and make sure your security monitors are charged and ready. These characters are the good. And despite his limited screen time, we have to give the gold medal of good to the dearly departed Garrett Schmidt, younger brother to Mike, the movie's protagonist. Garrett was a young boy who was kidnapped by William Afton and ultimately killed. That gives him something in common with several other young victims we'll see later on, which might beg the question of why he specifically is called the most good character. We place him here not just because he's an innocent child, but since he isn't simultaneously possessing a mass-murdering animatronic animal. We don't have anything even potentially negative to say about him, easily making him the most pure character in the film. Next is the younger of the movie's leading ladies, Abby Schmidt. Abby tends to keep to herself and her drawings, and to be honest, she can be a little bratty at times. It never exceeds regular kid stuff, just causing some trouble for Mike here and there.
You didn't tell me you had a sister either.
Are you here to arrest Mike?
But I suppose technically one could call it a character flaw. Regarding her good traits though, Abby is kind-hearted and genuinely wants to help others. She ultimately ends up helping Mike to discover the truth about Garrett, and is totally willing to hang out with her ghost children / animatronic animal buddies. Like you'd expect from a little girl, she's very compassionate, even if she is naive and impulsive at the same time. Now, this does almost get her killed on several occasions, but the fact that even after this, she still actively wants to visit Freddy and the gang, again, shows that he goes above and beyond in terms of kindness. The bronze medal of good has to go to Abby's older brother and the movie's main character, Michael Mike Schmidt. Mike admittedly doesn't make the best first impression. At the start of the movie, he runs after a man he believes to be a child kidnapper and beats him to a pulp in front of said child, who turned out to be his son. Not a great start. That said, this poor first impression is nothing more than just that, a first impression. In reality, Mike is deeply traumatized by the kidnapping and murder of his younger brother Garrett in his childhood. His life centers around a desperate longing to know what happened to him. But despite this, it doesn't stop him from taking on crappy job after crappy job to provide for Abby. Although she could be a handful, all things considered, he's pretty patient with her, and he's got to get plenty of good points for stepping up. His dedication is proved when he gets offered the chance to give up Abby to Afton's victims, and turns it down.
Stay away from my sister!
Realizing that absolving his own inner guilt is less important than loving the one sibling he's got left. He certainly has a lot of trauma to work through, but he's proved himself as a good guy at the end of the day. And at the end of the good section, come on, how could we not mention MatPat? Look, we know he had literally 20-ish seconds of screen time, but love him or hate him, he's synonymous with Five Nights at Freddy's at this point.
Some people say that, but you know, it's just a theory.
And he's also a very polite waiter, even to a non-customer like Jane. Seriously, why is he even letting them stay here? With the good section wrapped up, we now enter more neutral territory. These characters fall in the moral gray area. Doug, Jane's lawyer, is the next character we'll mention. Never has a character so perfectly given off the vibe of, please get me out of here, like he does. He's just a guy trying to do his job and actually trying pretty hard to do it ethically by leaving during Jane's spiel to Max and Jeff. And speaking of, next up is Max. She is, or was, Abby's babysitter, and a pretty generous one too. She cares deeply for the family, asking for no compensation to watch Abby since she knows about Mike's financial issues. We also have to give her the lust medal, given her strong desire for a man to put a ring on her finger. Unfortunately, she also finds herself doing some shady stuff. It turns out she's being paid by the Schmidt's Aunt Jane to try and find some evidence of child endangerment so the latter can win custody of Abby. She doesn't try to make any evidence and is definitely the least sleazy of those involved in the project, and she definitely didn't deserve to be bitten in half like that, but that was still a pretty nasty move. While it may be controversial, we're placing the last of the film's three main characters down here, Vanessa Afton. We're gonna start with the good stuff about her because there is a decent amount. She cares for the safety of others in a general sense. She threatens to shoot Mike if he ever brings Abby back to the restaurant.
But if you ever bring Abby back here again, I will shoot you.
In what turns out to be a desperate attempt to keep them away from what she knows is a legitimate slaughterhouse. Unfortunately, this doesn't work, and when Vanessa eventually reveals that William Afton is both her father and responsible for both the animatronics' ghostly spirits and the death of Garrett, it's almost too late. The answer to why Vanessa is this low is simple, and it's phrased as a question. Why the heck did you not mention this earlier? You can act all stuck up and holier than thou the whole movie, but heaven forbid you actually give us the crucial information we need. I mean, just for putting it off so long, we have to give her the Sloth Center Medal. At least she ultimately helped to stop Afton though, and to protect Abby and Mike from the animatronics rampage. If nothing else, we could make a good intentions argument. At the tail end of the gray area, it's finally time to mention the series' true main characters, the animatronics. Chica, her cupcake, Bonnie, Foxy the Pirate Fox, and of course, Freddy Fazbear. Let's get one thing out of the way. These animatronics are possessed by the spirits of the kids William Afton killed back in the 80s. They've taken many lives in their time, some even on screen, and attempted to do the same to Abby. When she bonds with them, they encourage her to join them, with Freddy coming to her house and murdering her Aunt Jane while telling her she's just asleep.
Silly Aunt Jane. She fell asleep.
What's more, Freddy tries to manipulate Mike into giving Abby up willingly by promising to bring Garrett back. A promise we not only all know he can't keep, but one that basically tries to push Mike to an opportunity to absolve his guilt for not saving his younger sibling by not saving his younger sibling. While this is all extremely screwed up at heart, these poor kids, mass murdering robots they may be, don't genuinely want to hurt anybody. They're the definition of tortured souls, and most of their worst actions are done at the manipulation of who else but William Afton. We're gonna talk about him later, but we've got some lesser baddies to talk about first. These are the bad and the evil. The Bronze Medal of Evil has to go to the aforementioned Aunt Jane. And aunts with a haircut like that, man, there was never any way she wouldn't be evil. Jokes aside, this woman is just downright nasty. She has no problem emotionally manipulating social workers and teachers to try and build her case for gaining custody over Abby, despite Abby's clear dislike of her, mind you.
I hate her. She's mean and she smells like cigarettes.
She takes the Envy Center Medal for just how hard she wants to snatch that sweet government support. I mean, custody over her dear niece. She's also extremely judgmental and underhanded, even resorting to hiring people to gather evidence against Mike as a caretaker. As if all that wasn't bad enough, it was. She's also downright rude to food service workers, ones she isn't even buying anything from. But still, she's definitely not as bad as our runner-up of evil, Jeff. Max's brother and one of the double agents of sorts hired by Jane. Jeff is bad news. He gives off the vibes of a high school bully who never really matured, unless you count committing more mature crimes. He's extremely violent, immediately suggesting that they just kill Mike to get the whole incrimination job done easier.
Why don't we just kill him?
For all Jane's faults, even she was shocked by that suggestion. We're also going to give Jeff the Greed Medal for his willingness to go along with Jane's plans for money. And on top of all this, while Max had some redeeming qualities to make up for her shady business, Jeff has no such thing. He's just a sleazy guy all around. But it goes without saying that the gold medal of evil winner has to be William Afton. I mean, it's not even close. Child murder is one of the quickest ways to tell people that you're the scum of the earth, and Afton, just in case you didn't get the message, is efficient enough to have killed at least 5 of them. But child murder wasn't enough for him. No, he also stuffed their bodies into his now abandoned pizza place's animatronics, and emotionally manipulated their souls to continue doing his dirty work.
I have something for you to play with!
This included trying to manipulate Mike into giving up Abby, essentially trying to murder her with a spring trap, and God knows what else. But just in case there was any doubts that this man has not an ounce of compassion or decency, he earns the Wrath Sinner Medal because he not only intentionally hires Mike because he knows he's the brother of one of his victims, but he even stabs his own daughter when she tries to get in the way. Hopefully his promise of a comeback was nothing more than a sorry attempt to save face. Never has a bone-crushing felt or looked so deserved.
Here in the writer's room, Halloween is one of our favorite holidays. We love all facets of the fall, and that of course includes the world of seasonal spooky animations. We all know that slashers are guilty of at least one shared crime. We'll admit, the slashing kind of overshadows the other sins. But do we love the villains that make our Halloween movies so spooky? Honestly, sometimes we do, but they need to be punished anyway. Hey guys, I'm Brad with Wicked Binge, and today we'll be sentencing Halloween villains for their crimes.
What was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
This should go without saying, but a big, spooky spoiler warning is in effect. And with that said, let's go to court. First on the docket, we have Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas. There are actually a few characters from this movie. The laws of Halloween Town are different than our own, so we're gonna be very lenient with some of the more ambiguous crimes. We're not sure if grave robbing the living dead is more of a breaking and entering situation, for instance. But that doesn't mean we can let everything slide. First to stand trial is Dr. Finkelstein. You may be thinking he's not really a villain, but he's a pretty important antagonist, especially to Sally. He may have created her, but he created her with sentience and then locked her up.
You're mine, you know. I made you.
The fact that she seems to have a mature adult mind means that we can't call this child abuse. Exactly. But we're still gonna charge him with abuse because he's shown such an interest in community projects. The court has decided to be lenient. With his scientific mind, we sentence him to 1 year community service and a public lab where his creations will be both dictated and monitored. It would be silly to let that brain of his go to waste after all. Next, we have Lock, Shock, and Barrel. Since they are minors and cannot be tried as adults, we'll be sending them directly to reform school. Yeah, they were manipulated, but we think they need to learn the consequences of, well, kidnapping the Santa Claus. Next is their boss, Mr. Oogie Boogie. He may have a great voice and an awesome lair, but we refuse to be dazzled or distracted from his crimes. While he may not have ordered for Santa to be kidnapped in the first place, he was a little too happy to keep him hostage, tying him up in the aforementioned lair. Not only does he abduct Sally, but he goes so far as to hold her body parts hostage. That sounds worse than it is because of Sally's condition, but still. For that, we're gonna charge him with coercion. He disobeys several orders from Jack about not murdering his friends, and since Jack is royalty, we can only assume that's some sort of treason? It's overshadowed slightly by the fact that the order he was disobeying involved the attempted murder of 3 people, including Jack. That's 2 counts of attempted murder and 1 count of attempted regicide, technically. For all this, we have very little choice but to condemn Oogie Boogie to the death penalty. This means he, more or less, met a just end in the film. Now we have Jack Skellington. We love Jack. Everyone loves Jack. The thing about it is that if you're Santa Claus, he really is the villain of the movie. The kidnapping, and even the breaking and entering we can chalk up to an honest miscommunication, letting Jack off the hook for many, many of his crimes. There are a few, however, such as a heist of an entire holiday, as well as identity theft, that just need to to be addressed.
I'm afraid I've made a terrible mess of your holiday.
Considering the non-violent nature of those two charges, the court is once again inclined to be lenient. We sentence Jack to 1 year probation, as well as sensitivity training regarding all holidays, in the hope that these mistakes are never repeated. Next is Freddy Krueger. This is not his first time being in court, but we will not be letting him off on any technicalities this time around. Freddy comes from the acclaimed A Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. We'll be looking at the character from the original 1984 film all the way to the 6th installment, Freddy's Dead in 1991. In the time that he's alive, we see him kill one man, confirmed, as well as abuse, then murder his wife. There is evidence that he killed at least 20 children before being burned alive. His dream crimes, which will be addressed since they carry over to the real world, are numerous as well. There is one count of arson for setting 1428 Elm Street ablaze in the first film. There are 2 counts of stalking, one for Nancy from the 1st to 3rd film, and one for Alice from the 4th to 5th film.
Welcome to Wonderland, Alice.
Even though a lot of his inappropriate attraction to minors was thankfully never confirmed, we do see him lick Nancy and catfish 2 different teenage boys before their demise. So that is a total of 3 counts of inappropriate conduct with minors. We're also adding 1 count of animal cruelty for making Jesse's bird explode. For the crimes already listed, we sentence him to 50 years of solitary insomnia in the physical realm. No access to anyone's dreams and no visits from his little demon friends. And then there are the approximately 55 deaths over 6 movies, including the 20 murdered children, his foster father, his wife, and 6 separate sets of teenage victims. Though this more than warrants the death penalty, we honestly don't want to know what he'd come back as if he died again. For that reason, we'll be adding an additional 54 consecutive life sentences to his time in metaphysical prison. Now we have Jason Voorhees. The court recognizes that Jason Voorhees is not at full mental capacity. Even still, his crimes are shocking and must be addressed. We'll be taking into consideration his actions from the original Friday the 13th film in 1980, as well as the following 9 sequels through to Jason X in 2001. As we're all aware, his mother may have been the killer in the first movie, but Jason still manages to rack up his first assault charge for attacking Alice when she's in the boat. It might be worth noting that the only movie in which he acquires no charges whatsoever would be Friday the 13th Part 5, where Roy is masquerading as Jason, who doesn't even do any property damage during that time. Speaking of which, we're gonna go ahead and give him 2 counts of property damage for the 2 most serious offenses, the sinking of the SS Lazarus and the destruction in the diner, both from Part 8. There is 1 charge of stalking, since he follows Alice from Camp Crystal Lake to her home for his revenge at the beginning of Part 2. We're classifying the inhabiting of his victims' bodies as kidnapping, for which there are at least 3 counts. And finally, we're going to add 1 count of terrorism for the countless lives lost in Jason X, with the destruction of the Solaris space station. Once again, we are hesitant to execute, lest we release another wave of possessions or a resurrection, spawning an even stronger Uber Jason. But between the terrorism charge and the additional 116 first-degree murder charges, we feel we have no choice but to try. We sentence him to death by drawing and quartering, with the addendum that those quarters be sent off to different corners of the earth and put into cryo-freeze. Let's face it, that probably would have been the beginning to Part 11 had the franchise not rebooted. Alright, now we have another Tim Burton feature, Corpse Bride. Unlike A Nightmare Before Christmas, where even the heroes needed to be sentenced, Corpse Bride has brought us only one defendant, Lord Barkis. There are only 3 counts against Lord Barkis, but they're all serious. One, of course, is murder. Though the exact details of the crime were left to the imagination of the young audience, we know that he wounded Emily and left her for dead. Since it was intentional, we have to charge him with murder in the 1st degree. Then he stole her family's money. He would make the case, of course, that he just inherited the money she stole from the family, but he ended up with those blood jewels either way. And remember, he was the one who put her up to the scheme in the first place. The 3rd and final charge against Lord Barkis is a conspiracy to murder his other bride, Victoria. Honestly, we couldn't think of a more just end than what came to him in the movie, letting him spend eternity in the land of the dead with the people who want to see him brought to justice. But since the court just can't wait for him to drink poison, we sentence him to execution by hanging. Our next movie is Coraline. The only one being charged is Coraline's other mother. The obvious charge would be identity theft, but she's upfront about the fact that she's not Coraline's old mother, but rather the other mother.
Do you like them?
I'm your other mother, silly.
That distinction saves her from one charge, but none of her other crimes. There are 4 counts of stalking, with the assistance of her creepy spy doll. There are also 3 counts of child neglect for the children she locked behind the mirror. Associated with this, we have 3 counts of murder in the 3rd degree. We wouldn't say that the murders of the children were premeditated or even intentional, but the deaths were solidly her fault and happened under her watch during illegal conduct. Finally, we have to charge her with 2 counts of abduction, 1 for each of Coraline's parents. For these crimes, we sentence her to death via electric chair, though to be honest, we're a little scared to see if it even works. The next movie is Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost. There are 2 villains that are going to be sentenced, Sarah Ravencroft and her descendant, Ben Ravencroft. We'll start with Ben. Though he has evil intentions, a lot of the things he actually accomplished that were evil aren't technically crimes. A couple of examples include orchestrating a fake mystery and tricking Velma. Even necromancy, which is morally dubious, isn't technically a crime. What we can charge him for is conspiracy for world domination. We're pretty sure that has to count as some kind of treason. For that, we sentence him to life in prison, and quickly before he escapes to Europe. For Sarah Ravencroft, the crimes are a little more ambiguous. We're sure she did some evil stuff back in her day, but based on the evidence presented, there are only 2 charges we can be sure of. One is property damage for the destruction of the Puritan Village attraction. The other, of course, is 1 count of attempted world domination. Since she is described in the movie as one who cannot die, we think sentencing her to life imprisonment inside her own spellbook was an appropriate end. Next on the docket is Hell Priest, aka Pinhead. Though Pinhead is an iconic character who makes appearances throughout the entire franchise, we'll be looking specifically at his pattern of behavior, which we feel is best exhibited across the first 3 movies. This begins with Hellraiser in 1987 and the 2 immediate sequels. Unlike the other criminals on our list, there are no murder charges. He doesn't murder so much as kidnaps people to a different realm of existence and torture their souls for eternity. Our existing criminal justice system doesn't have a term for that. We can, however, begin by nailing or pinning him with the charge of false advertising. While he may only claim to be an explorer into the further regions of experience, his followers on Earth are peddling infinite pleasure with the help of the Lament configuration, which is misleading at best. Then, of course, the kidnapping, assault, and eternal torture of his victims, all of which can be paired with stalking charges for the way he relentlessly follows those who solve his puzzle box across even the boundaries of dimension. For unconventional crimes, we must have unconventional punishments. A fine of 100 souls for the false claims made by his organization, the Order of the Gash. For the other deaths, abductions, and tortures, we sentence him to be reverted back to his human form of Elliot Spencer, as there is evidence to support he would enjoy all other forms of more traditional punishment. Next is Leatherface. For this, we'll be looking at the original timeline of the films, which means we'll only be taking into consideration the original film, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974, and its 2 direct sequels, ending with Leatherface, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 3 in 1990. Bubba Sawyer is a victim of his environment. The Sawyer clan raises him to be a killer, and he didn't have a chance at a normal life. However, we think his victims would agree that his rough upbringing is not a free pass. In the 2 films, we have to charge him with 2 counts of kidnapping, 1 for Sally Hardesty and 1 for Vanita Stretch Brock. We're also charging him with the assault of both those women and the attempted murder of Sally Hardesty. While most of the damage done was on Sawyer property, we also have to charge him with the destruction of the radio station. While we're at it, we're going to throw in a reckless endangerment charge for the chainsaw wielding in a car stunt he pulled with Chop Top in the 2nd movie. Since he's one of the few slashers we think has some chance of being properly detained, we sentence him to 50 years behind bars for the aforementioned crime. For the 24 deaths in those 3 films, we'll be adding 24 consecutive life sentences, which will actually be doubled for 48 consecutive life sentences because of the cannibalism, often tried as a first-degree murder charge in its own right. Now we have the film Paranorman. The first villain is Judge Hopkins. Though he and his 6 zombie associates wreak havoc in the world of the living, this is after they have seen the error of their ways. We're going to focus on his crime of sentencing Agatha Prendergast to death when she was but an innocent child.
You were speaking with the dead.
Wrongful conviction isn't actually a crime, technically, but we can and will charge him for inciting panic and manslaughter, since it is the mob mentality and irrational fear that led to Aggie's death. For this, we sentence him to life imprisonment to reflect on his crimes. We also, unfortunately, must bring charges against the one who cursed him. Agatha Prendergast was innocent when she was wrongfully sentenced to death. death, but her powerful spirit is guilty of the same rage and violence as those who wronged her. For holding 7 souls hostage in civil unrest, or more specifically, dead civilian unrest, we're charging her to 1 year in an afterlife rehabilitation program. As Norman proves in the movie, she's able to find her way back to a good point. The court just wants to help her get there. Our final movie of the day is Over the Garden Wall. While this is technically not a movie, we all know the best way to watch this is in a single setting, like a movie. Honestly, when was the last time you watched this as episodes? This one's got a few criminals. One is the North Wind. He might have been a dream, but that's no excuse in this court for bad behavior. We're charging him with several counts of property damage, for which he shall be sentenced a hefty fine of 2 cents. If it's enough to start a fortune in this land, we figure it's enough to show him we mean business. Next is Adelaide of the Pasture. She turns out not to be the good woman that was promised, but rather a mean old witch who lords her magic over others. She gets 1 count of extortion for the terrible position that she puts Patrice into by promising her freedom in exchange for a servant. She also gets 2 counts of kidnapping for, well, the napping of kids Wirt and Greg. Even if she was overthrown, there was still an abduction and restraint situation that she needs charged for, and we know her intentions for after were not good either. For these crimes, we sentence her to 10 years of community service. Since she was trying to make servants out of other children, we think the most fitting judgment is for her to serve the community in their place. And finally, the last defendant is, of course, the Beast. He also extorts free work from the woodsman, but that is hardly a charge in comparison to the grinding children into oil after they've been transformed into Edelwood trees. We don't know exactly how many counts of this there are, but he's been at it long enough for them to be writing songs about his crimes. For this, we sentence the Beast to death. We think that the quick extinguishing of his fire is a kinder fate than even letting him starve, because we wouldn't let him get any more oil. Carrie White. While not a traditional slasher, she's definitely the one to watch in the 1976 movie of the same name. Not only does she have the highest body count of the film, but she is without question the strongest. You don't want to get on her bad side, or even be in a room with someone else who did get on her bad side. To that effect, regarding her telekinetic stunt in the gymnasium after prom, where she starts an electrical fire while also locking students into the room, we have no choice but to do some sentencing. We're going to start with arson, because whether or not she intended the fire specifically, it was obviously caused by her intention to do harm. We're also going to charge her with 67 counts of manslaughter. While you could argue that all the students who died or were injured in the gym were intended victims, we would argue that there were just a lot of casualties while the people she was targeting were picked off. For the fire, electricity, and the many deaths, we're sentencing Miss White to life in prison with the hope for rehabilitation. At least we would, were it not also for the 3 counts of murder and the first degree. You could argue that Chris Hargensen, Billy Nolan, and the defendant's mother, Margaret White, were all aggressors. Keeping that in mind, Carrie's final sentencing is to life in a psychiatric facility that hopefully is equipped to deal with her special, lethal abilities. Up next is Art the Clown. Though Art first showed up as a character in the anthology film All Hallows Eve, you may be better familiarized with him from his starring roles in Terrifier and Terrifier 2. We'll be looking at all 3 films, though with a strong focus on Terrifier for its tangible depiction of crimes. From All Hallows Eve, he earns 1 count of breaking and entering, and a 2nd count for that in Terrifier 2, along with kidnapping. For his crimes in Terrifier, we're charging him with solicitation and the willful destruction of property. In all 3, he's racking up more charges of desecration of a corpse than we can count. Literally, we can't figure out how many corpses he desecrates how many times. Based off solely what we've listed so far, and the violent nature of his upcoming murder charges, Art is the only one on this list we think could make a plea for insanity. Though his chances of being rehabilitated are exceedingly low, we sentence him to eternal life in whatever psychiatric facility dares to hold him. This works well, since he apparently cannot be killed, and therefore would be difficult to sentence to death. Between the chaos and help from his demonic, extraterrestrial friends in All Hallows Eve, the exact number of murders is difficult to pin down, but we have it in the ballpark of around 20 charges. Next is Annie Wilkes. Annie Wilkes makes her appearance in the 1990 film Misery. While she doesn't have the scope of some of the upcoming killers, we simply can't let her get away scot-free. For her abduction, restraint, physical and psychological torture of Paul Sheldon, we sentence her to death. Though, we don't think her demise in the movie was all that it could have been. Execution by hobbling is not a thing, but she deserves to at least think about what she did on her way to the electric chair. Now we have Sadako Yamamura. It's important to note that we're charging Sadako and not her American counterpart Samara, who would have been charged as a child. The Ring franchise is filled with people essentially sentencing themselves to death within 7 days. But we need to look at Sadako's crimes and sentence her for a change. There's a real case to be made for murder. Rather than get into the semantics of abduction, cursing, and scaring someone to death, we're going to charge Sadako with hacking. Her paranormal cybercrimes intentionally led to the death of at least 11 people in Ringu and Ringu 2, not to mention the destruction and haunting of several electronic devices along the way. For her crimes, we're sentencing her to eternal life imprisonment inside a Faraday cage. Let's only hope she can't escape that as easily as a VHS tape. Next is one of our most prolific slashers, Charles Lee Ray, also known as Chucky. We'll be looking at the Child's Play trilogy, as well as Bride of Chucky, Seed of Chucky, Curse of Chucky, and Cult of Chucky, but not the remake of Child's Play or the television series Chucky. Even with those exclusions, we have a lot of ground to cover. First, we gotta talk about identity theft. Though it seems silly to claim Charles stole the identity of a doll, he did masquerade as Buddy, which helped him get into a position to commit his other worst crimes. We're gonna start with one charge of manslaughter for the death of Colonel Cochrane, who Chucky was attacking when he died of a heart attack, surprising even the possessed doll. We also have to charge him with the forced impregnation of Jennifer Tilly, and we're gonna add a misdemeanor just for making us read that sentence. Ugh, it was gross. Then there's one charge of child abandonment and another charge of reckless child endangerment for the environment that Glenda eventually returns to. For these crimes, we're sentencing him back into his body under careful watch. For the roughly 49 charges of murder to follow, we'll be sentencing him to death by lethal injection. We've seen what happens when this soul gets too close to electricity, so we're not going to risk the electric chair. Next is his bride, Timothy Valentine. If 49 deaths seemed low for these movies, it's because a handful of them are attributed to Tiffany. She also, unfortunately, needs to be charged for the forced impregnation of Jennifer Tilly, as well as identity theft, since she continues to live the life of Miss Tilly following her successful possession, at least for a while. Like Chucky, we're going to give her one count of child abandonment, but Tiff won't be taking a charge for reckless child endangerment. The environment still was not safe for their daughter, son, but unlike Chucky, Tiffany did all that she could to improve conditions. Will it be enough to spare her? No, it won't. We sentence her soul back into her original body, and then we sentence that body to death by lethal injection for the 7 counts of murder. Now we have Pennywise. For this, we'll look at both halves of the 1990 miniseries It. Keep in mind that the crimes on the docket today are only the ones we have the video evidence of, and not the countless implied crimes. Our first charge is trespassing. This clown is everywhere, and we mean clown in both a literal and derogatory sense. He's even worse than Art, who can only break in and stalk physical locations. Pennywise is anywhere and everywhere, including dreams, photos, the theater, the bathroom, and for some reason even the school showers. We're gonna drop a voyeurism charge here as well, because there are at least 2 of those places it's especially inappropriate for someone to be. We'll double down with stalking and harassing minors.
Don't you want a balloon?
If only there were a way to get a demonic restraining order, the Losers Club might have been spared. And this may seem minor, but before we get to the sentencing, we're gonna add a charge for public disturbance. We mean, really, who would pop so many blood balloons in the library? For these counts, and taking into consideration Pennywise's eternal, near unlikable nature, we sentence him to 200 years of solitary confinement, during which he would be kept from feeding off the fear of the town. For the killing of 13 children and serving as an accessory to 2 other deaths, we'll be sentencing him to solitary for another 405 years. That's 15 of its hibernation cycles, during which we believe it honestly might starve to death without the fear of any children to sustain it. Cruel and unusual though the punishment may be, we cannot think of a more fitting end to the shapeshifter's rehabilitation than simply, not feeding off kids. Moving back to more human killers, we have Michael Myers. We said more human, not entirely human. After all, there's a good case to be made for Michael having some supernatural capabilities. Contrary to the cases posed by some of the other slasher villains, we'll be looking at Michael's actions in the most modern iteration of the Halloween timeline, which we feel is cleaner and more widely accepted than some of the early sequels. This will include the original 1987 Halloween and its recent Blumhouse Legacy trilogy, concluding with Halloween Ends in 2022. The obvious charge is stalking. We have seen time time and again that Michael can be an efficient killer, but he can also be a hyper-focused one. His obsession with Laurie spans over 4 decades without ever letting up. We also have to charge him with at least 3 counts of breaking and entering. The first is in the original Halloween, the second in Halloween Kills, and the third in Halloween Ends. Each time he makes his way into the Strode house to carry on his reign of terror, he breaks into other homes during the 3 movies. But it's harder to keep track of the ones that he's just passing through. Finally, we're charging him as an accomplice to Corey's 11 murders and Halloween Ends because, well, he basically taught him how to do it. For these crimes alone, we would be tempted to imprison him to confinement, but we know better. Michael Myers cannot and will not be confined, and with the additional 54 deaths, we feel comfortable sentencing him to death by injection, electric chair, firing squad, or trash compactor, whatever it takes to finally put him in the ground. Our final killer today is John Kramer. We saved the wildest case for last. As John sees it, and as said often, he's not a killer. He doesn't kill people. He finds ways for his victims to kill themselves.
Never killed anyone. I give people a chance.
We're not too sure that holds up in a court of law, so let's take a deeper look. We're going to be looking at his actions from the 2004 film Saw, all the way through to the 2017 film Jigsaw, 8 movies in total. And don't worry, we'll be talking about some more than others. While Jigsaw's claim that he doesn't kill his victims is technically true, at least in most cases, there are plenty of other crimes at play. For instance, kidnapping. Kramer is usually not the one doing the kidnapping, though we know he has in a couple instances, such as with his first victim, Cecil, and when he abducted Mark as part of the recruitment process. It's important to establish, however, that anything planned directly by Kramer and brought to fruition by his assistants is something that he can be sentenced for. It's the Saw universe equivalent of the Manson family. In the interest of making things simple, we're going to overlook some minor crimes that are heavily implied but not stated, such as what weapon class some of his inventions fall under, and where he's procuring the substances required to so consistently drug his victims or burn them with acid. Instead, we're going to be tallying up the 3 types of crimes we intend to charge him with: kidnapping, accessory to murder, and of course, murder. He's going to be taking a lot of kidnapping charges, starting with Cecil and ending posthumously with Bobby Dagan. As we said earlier, it doesn't matter whether he does the heavy lifting in these instances, just so long as it was done by his people under his orders. That's roughly 63 counts of kidnapping, all accompanied with either a drugging or assault charge. This is based on the number of victims in Jigsaw traps that were approved by Kramer that would have been forcibly taken to the trap location. Next, we count the crimes that Kramer was an accessory to. This means that all the murders within the traps or failed tests that could have been survivable will be counted here. Interestingly, these guidelines make him an accessory not only to Jill's death, which he was against, but also his own death, which happened as a murder by Jeff Denlin during a trap he himself organized. It comes out to 72 counts of accessory to murder. When you're an accessory to this many things and have organized this many traps and kidnappings, you're not innocent. Already, we're looking at life in prison without the possibility of parole. But let's not forget that we still have one type of crime left. Despite what John would have us believe, he is a killer. He trained 2 killers, and while he may have taken them out for disobeying him, we think he's also who they learned it from. When you look at hands-on killings, as well as traps that were never meant to be survived by all the victims, there is blood that is undeniably on John's hands. For Adam, Troy, Detective Carey, Hank, Aaron, Gina, Dave, Alex, and Mark Hoffman, we're charging John with 9 counts of murder. In light of that, we have to adjust his sentence to execution by lethal injection.
You think it's over just because I'm dead?
We'd be curious to see if he has the will to survive it after all.
Sergeant Slappy, ready to protect and serve.
It's that time of year, guys. Halloween is just around the corner. We're not afraid to get some goosebumps, but just so there's no room for denying it, we mean that literally today. Hey guys, I'm Brad with Wicked Binge, and this is Goosebumps 1 and 2 characters, good to evil.
Hey, what's up, my witches?
As usual, we're starting with the innocents, so be ready for things to get scarier as we go. These characters are the good. Good neighbors go a long way, hence why our gold medal of good goes to Mr. Chu. Next door neighbor to the Quinn family, Mr. Chu is a friendly guy who does his best to make Halloween a good time for everyone. He's seen enthusiastically decorating his house for the season and showing the neighbors his progress, which indicates he's a pretty good people person. But his altruism goes beyond just being a nice guy. He lets Sarah, Sunny, and Sam hide in his house from the monsters and helps to disguise them as such, so they can get to the Tesla Tower and save the city from the Steins monsters. Good style, loves kids, and helped indirectly save the world? What a king to start off our list. A close runner-up takes our silver medal of good. Girl Next Door, Hannah Stein. Acting as Zach's love interest in the first movie, Hannah is technically the daughter of R.L. Stein. We say technically because in a second act twist that was way darker than anyone would have expected in a family film, she was made in the same way as his monsters, through his writing. That unfortunately means that when the time came to seal the monsters away, she had to say goodbye as well. But while she was around, Hannah was a nice person. She got along well with Zach and Champ, did her best to enjoy her life without excessively worrying her dad, and at the end of the day was willing to be sealed away for the good of the world. Good kid, but God, what a tragic existence.
You okay? You look like you just saw a ghost.
We will give her a very understandable envy sentimental though, as she's reasonably annoyed at her inability to live the life others have. He may not be the champ of the whole list, but Champ is a stand-up guy who's worth the bronze medal of good. Everyone needs a buddy, and every movie needs comic relief. Champ fills both these roles nicely, willingly helping Zach and Hannah save the town from Stein's monsters, despite the former tricking him initially. Due to his knowledge of monsters, he plays an invaluable role in the monster hunting team.
Oh, thank God. Guys, false alarm, it's not my dad.
Although he's mostly brains, being a scaredy cat, he's shown to have a brave side that more than makes up for it. When a cheerleader is being attacked by a werewolf, Champ jumps in to protect her and fights off the monster even when his allies tell him he really shouldn't. Call him a geek all you want, but this man earned that kiss and you all know it. We'll give this ladies' man the Lust Medal out of sheer respect. Now we have a dual entry, Goosebumps 2's Sunny and Sam, owners and proprietors of Junk Bros Incorporated.
Hey, fear not, ma'am. Junk is our middle name.
They are admittedly responsible for accidentally unleashing Stein's monsters onto the world again, mostly Sunny, who ignored Sam's wise advice to not touch anything. That said, emphasis on accidental. The kids mean well, and they're generally nice people who do their best to save the town from the monsters threatening it. Their loyalty to each other is also commendable, as is Sunny's concern for his heartbroken sister. They're good kids, and the fact that we rank them together should act as a testament to how strong their friendship is. Also, fun fact, Sam is apparently played by the first voice actor of Clyde from The Loud House. Alright, not really related to morality, but I knew he sounded familiar, and now I feel vindicated. Moving back to the first movie, we have Zach Cooper. To be completely honest and opinionated for a moment, Zach isn't really the most interesting character around.
It's not what I was expecting.
As a result, there isn't a lot we can say about him, morally speaking. He's just very normal. If you've ever known an introverted teenage boy or ever been an introverted teenage boy, you're already fully familiar with Zach. That said, he's a nice dude who does a lot to build his relationship with Hannah, to save the town from Stein's unleashed monsters, and even becomes a solid buddy to Champ, who didn't really seem to have friends at the time. Not much to say, but sometimes that's alright. He's just an all-around decent guy. The apple didn't fall far from the tree. Next is Gail Cooper, Zach's mother, and the vice principal of Madison High. Yeah, you can probably see why Zach was a little embarrassed to walk in with her at first. Gail did too, actually. Being cool with letting him walk into the school with a head start before following after. She's in tune with her son and his feelings, always taking them into consideration.
Be careful, Zach.
We're gonna get through this.
Not a good time.
It takes a strong person to be their best as a parent after the loss of their partner, which gives Gail extra points. Next is Lorraine Conyers. Yeah, you know her. She's that one aunt who tries a bit too hard to sound cool at all the family gatherings. But with that much confidence in herself, she actually does succeed at being kinda cool. You gotta be at least somewhat cool to fight off a bear and manage to seduce Jack Black both in the span of like 5 minutes. Her role is very small, but her impact is anything but. Next is the sequel's main heroine, Sarah Quinn. A high school senior applying to college, Sarah was just living life and trying her best until her negligence in watching Sam and Sunny led to them both unleashing monsters onto their city and blowing up their school science lab by accident. Being a teenager is rough, and getting cheated on by the boyfriend you snuck away from your responsibilities to see makes it no easier. Sarah's a good person though. She cares about her family deeply.
We have to stop him.
willing to fight Slappy and his gang to make sure they're safe and protected. Any moral failings of hers don't really go beyond usual teenage selfishness. Rounding out the good area is Sonny and Sam's mother, Kathy Quinn. Kathy somehow gives off the energy of a cool mom while being in practice a pretty darn strict one. When Sarah fails to watch the boys, leading to the aforementioned science lab explosion, Kathy grounds all three of them and effectively cancels Halloween. This was a bit harsh towards Sonny and Sam, who at least didn't mean to cause mass destruction. Just ground them after Halloween, man. God, jeez. But her heart is in the right place. She'll do anything to protect her kids and loves them dearly, no matter how harsh she may be. And that's enough to just barely keep her out of our next category. This is the gray area. First is Walter. While he's technically one of the villains of Haunted Halloween, Walter is far from a bad guy. In fact, he's really just there. He's polite, a hard worker, and understandably doesn't enjoy being transformed and controlled against his will by Slappy. That said, he's just a dude managing a pharmacy in Wardenclyffe. There's not much to go off of here, but he's nice enough. Honestly, we just like having every area get some attention in these lists. It might be surprising to see Sam and Sonny's bully in the gray area, but Tommy Madigan actually saw some redemption. Apparently, this dude's actor just has a bully type of energy to him, since he also played a bully named Troy in the first season of Stranger Things. You know, the one Eleven made involuntarily pee himself? Yeah, that guy. Thankfully, he's a little nicer here. Still a jerk throughout most of the movie.
What'd you say?
But in the end, he comes through to help Sam, Sonny, and the others save Wardenclyffe and seal away the monsters. After this, he seems to be friends with them, showing that he's at least on a better path than he started on. Good for you, Tommy. Jack Black? More like Jack Gray, because rounding out this area is R.L. Stine. Not only is that one of the strangest sentences I've ever typed, but it illustrates well how turbulent Stine's role in the movie is. Though he initially seems to be the typical paranoid neighbor, it turns out that he has a very good reason to be. Ever since childhood, the monsters Stine wrote into his stories were his dearest friends, who unfortunately ended up coming to reality and not being as friendly as he might have liked. Unintentionally, Stine is the source of all the movie's main conflicts.
What's your point?
Though, to his credit, he also helps immensely in stopping it, and even helps out in the second movie, albeit way later. We'll give him the Pride Medal, by the way. He's reasonably proud of his work. What keeps Stine in the gray area then? Well, that would be the creation of his daughter, Hannah. Stine made Hannah the same way as his monsters, from that accursed typewriter. While wanting a genuine connection is totally understandable, Hannah's existence is legitimately horrifying when you think about it. Imagine being brought into this world as a being only meant for the purpose of giving one specific person company, never being able to live your life with any freedom.
All of you in the car now!
He may not be malicious, but just about everything he did ended in tragedy, which is sad, but not enough to put him in a more favorable position. But he does get some points for helping save the world from monsters, like the characters here in The Bad to Evil. The Bronze Medal of Evil goes to Sarah's no-good ex-boyfriend, Tyler. And guys, lend us your ear for a minute. We're giving Tyler the Darwin Center Medal because this man is impressively dumb. Let me get this straight. You invite your girlfriend to a concert, right? That's a very sweet gesture, and you do it pretty smoothly. Good on you, man. So you go to the concert knowing full well that you invited your girlfriend here, then you start kissing another girl. Did you want her to discover this? Like, are you a masochist or just a massive jerk? Look, whatever the answer, you're definitely worth a spot in the bad section. To quote the great Carrie Underwood, maybe next time you'll think before you cheat, Tyler. The Silver Medal of Evil belongs to a massive joint entry, Stine's Monsters. Now, most of these dudes can really just boil down to being animalistic and savage. There's werewolves and slimes and vampire poodles, oh my. And they're all willing to attack humans indiscriminately. They don't seem to be doing this for food or anything either.
Best costume of the night, sir.
Causing violence and destruction just seem pretty fun for them. We'll give them the Wrath Center Medal on that note, but you'd be a real dummy to think they're the best of the best when it comes to monsters. Of course, who else could get the Gold Medal of Evil but Slappy? This highly advanced ventriloquism device, not to be confused with a dummy.
Who are you calling dummy? Dummy,
is basically a family-friendly Chucky, though a bit less heinous. Sure, Slappy does partially just want to be part of a family.
Serving families is what I do.
But even more than that, he wants to cause chaos all over the world. He won't hesitate to cause harm to others, whether it's for the sake of protecting someone he cares for, like injuring Tyler, or just for the fun of it, like pretty much everything else. He's also calculating, able to rally monsters together under his command and use their strength in numbers to his advantage, not to mention his capability of transforming humans into monsters as well. He doesn't even hesitate to kidnap Sonny and Sarah's mother, showing that he is as vengeful as he is cruel. But perhaps worst of all, you know how he's called Slappy? Throughout this entire saga so far, I don't think he's slapped someone even once. Mass murder is one thing, but adding false advertisement to the mix? You're a different kind of evil, Slappy.